Chapter 804. I don't know if Brother Jian can withstand it. Lu Ming muttered to himself and decided to release Kenfei Ryu so that he could absorb the bloodline power to recover. With a wave of his hand, Kenfei Ryu's figure appeared and floated in the air. Brother Jian's bloodline won't absorb the bloodline power around him. After a while, Lu Ming realized that Kenfei Ryu's spine would not absorb the bloodline power. Let me give him a hand. Lu Ming channeled his true origin and controlled the bloodline power to pour into Kenfei Ryu's spine. However, the bloodline power dissipated quickly and was not absorbed. How can this be? Could it be that Brother Jian is dying and has lost his consciousness and can't absorb the bloodline power? What should I do? Lu Ming's eyes were filled with anxiety. If he could not absorb the bloodline power, how could he save Kenfei Ryu? Lu Ming, let me do it. I have a way to let the bloodline power automatically seep into his spine. Although it's a little slow, it's more or less useful. Dandan appeared on Lu Ming's shoulder and said. Really? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Nonsense, what I know is not something you can imagine. When I fully recover, don't cry and beg me to be your master. Dandan said proudly. Dandan then flew in front of Kenfei Ryu and waved its claws continuously. Inscriptions entered Kenfei Ryu's body. Then, it waved its little claws and guided the bloodline power around Kenfei Ryu's spine, slowly seeping in. It's really useful. Lu Ming was relieved. What is this? Get lost. Just as Lu Ming was about to focus on absorbing the bloodline power, Dandan suddenly let out an angry cry. What's going on? Lu Ming was shocked. Lu Ming, something is invading Kenfei Ryu's body. I can sense it, but I can't stop it. Dandan shouted. What? Something? What's in the blood pool? Lu Ming was shocked. My cultivation is crippled and my bloodline is exhausted. I have to start anew. A loud laugh suddenly came from Kenfei Ryu's body. It was full of excitement. Lu Ming was shocked and shouted, Who are you? Get out of Brother Jian's body. Who am I? It's just a wisp of remnant soul. It was supposed to be in eternal slumber, but it was awakened by this brat. Jian Feiliu's voice rang out again. At the same time, a blood-red light filled the air. Remnant soul? Are you trying to take over his body? SSSSSSSTS. At this time, Xian Yanqing and Kong Jin also rushed over. Lu Ming, what's going on? Xian Yanqing asked. There's a remnant soul here that wants to possess you, Brother Jian. Lu Ming said. Xian Yanqing and Kong Jin were both shocked. Possession? Little fellow, you really think too highly of me. All that's left of me is a wisp of remnant soul that can turn to ash at any moment. How can I possess someone? It's just that this little fellow is suitable to inherit my legacy. The voice from Kenfei Ryu's body sounded. How can I believe your words? Lu Ming's gaze was cold. Little guy, even if you don't believe me, you have to believe me. As the laughter rang out, Kenfei Ryu's body glowed with a bloody light as he suddenly plummeted rapidly. Stop! Lu Ming was greatly alarmed and chased after him. However, the resistance in the 10,000 blood pool was very strong. Lu Ming's speed was far slower than Kenfei Ryu's falling body. Lu Ming chased after him for 2,000 meters, but Kenfei Ryu's body was getting further and further down. Kill, kill. Endless murderous intent surged from all around. Lu Ming's face turned pale. The deeper he went, the more intense the surrounding murderous aura and murderous intent. Even with Lu Ming's wisdom, it was extremely difficult to withstand it. After a few more breaths, Kenfei Ryu's body completely disappeared, sinking into the endless 10,000 blood pool. Damn it! Lu Ming roared angrily. Lu Ming, this isn't your fault. Xian Yinqing swam over and said. Her face was also a little pale. The fatty also swam over, but he didn't say much. Lu Ming, maybe that voice is right. That's just a wisp of remnant soul that can't take over. Maybe it's really looking for a successor. Dandan frowned and said. Are you confident? Lu Ming asked. No. Dandan shook his head. Lu Ming wanted to throw Dandan out. Shao Qing, fatty, wait for me here. I'll go down and take a look. After saying that, Lu Ming continued to dive. The killing intent in the surroundings was getting stronger and stronger. The terrifying killing intent had already made Lu Ming's soul tremble. Lu Ming dived another 1,000 meters. The killing intent here had reached a terrifying level. Not only could it obliterate one's soul, but it could also obliterate one's physical body. Lu Ming felt a tearing pain in his body and a stabbing pain in his soul. Unfortunately, Kenfei Ryu's figure was still nowhere to be seen. Damn it! Lu Ming was somewhat unwilling, but he couldn't continue. If he did, he would be in danger. Helpless, Lu Ming could only go up. He never imagined that he would end up like this when he came to the blood pool to save Kenfei Ryu. He could only hope that Kenfei Ryu was fine. Lu Ming, this might be a fortuitous encounter for Kenfei Ryu. You don't have to blame yourself. Xian Yinqing advised. Lu Ming said, don't worry, I'm fine. Let's continue to accumulate bloodline power. The three of them went up and found a suitable place to absorb bloodline power. After getting used to it, they continued to dive. The deeper they went, the stronger the bloodline power became. Time passed day by day. The bloodline power accumulated in Lu Ming's spine grew stronger and stronger. A blood-red light flickered, as if something powerful was about to be born. Half a day after they entered the blood pool, Wang Haoxian also came to the blood pool. Wang Haoxian, you've already entered the blood pool and awakened a divine bloodline. The blood pool is already useless to you. Why are you still here? The middle-aged man opened his eyes and looked at Wang Haoxian. Senior, I'm here to ask you about a few people. There are 3 of them. One of them is a fatty, and the other is a beauty. Wang Haoxian described the appearances of Lu Ming's group. They entered the blood pool half a day ago. If you want to find them, you can only wait for them to come out. After saying that, the middle-aged man closed his eyes. They're really here. A cold murderous intent flashed in Wang Haoxian's eyes. He retreated and sat down cross-legged on another mountain dozens of miles away from the blood pool, waiting here. In the blink of an eye, half a month passed. The time was up. They had to leave. The 3 of them rushed out of the blood pool and stood beside it. Lu Ming discovered that Xian Yinqing and Kong Jin's spines were emitting a shocking fluctuation, as if something was about to break out. However, after a while, the blood-red aura slowly withdrew, and the fluctuation in their spines slowly disappeared. It was the same for Lu Ming. His spine was concealed as well. Chapter 805. It was the same for Xian Yinqing and Kong Jin. Their third bloodline had not awakened either. They had accumulated a lot of bloodline power, but they still had not awakened. Lu Ming looked at the blood pool and sighed softly. Then, he strode outside. There was still no news of Kenfei Ryu. It seemed that he had sunk into the endless depths of the blood pool. The 3 of them walked out of the cave, rose into the air, and flew toward the center of 9 dragons. Their next step was to go to another high-level cultivation sacred ground, the Sky Vault Legacy Grounds. It was said that there were many god-level prodigies cultivating there. The moment the 3 of them walked out of the cave, a figure shot into the sky dozens of miles away and chased after Lu Ming and the others. After flying for a few hundred miles, the trio suddenly stopped at the same time. This was because they realized that there was a cold murderous intent behind them that was spreading toward them. Whoosh! A purple light cut through the void and appeared in front of them in an instant. It was a beautiful woman, but her eyes were very cold. The murderous intent on her body was also very cold. She's from the Wang family. Lu Ming frowned. You're Lu Ming? Wang Haoxian's gaze fell on Lu Ming. That's right. Lu Ming said. His frown deepened. This was because he could sense an extremely dangerous aura from this lady. Very well. Did you kill my brother, Wang Haotian? Wang Haoxian said coldly. Wang Haotian is your brother? Lu Ming said. He suddenly remembered that before Wang Haotian died, he shouted that his sister would avenge him. Tell me, did you kill him? Wang Haoxian said sternly. Her murderous intent was even colder. Beauty, it's fine that I killed him, but your brother deserved it. If you want to avenge him, we'll accept it. Kong Jin said loudly. Good, very good. The three of you will be buried with my brother. Terrifying flames rose from Wang Haoxian's body, and a powerful aura erupted. Kill. Wang Haoxian was incomparably violent. He punched out, and a fiery fist light bombarded towards Lu Ming. In the sky, it directly burned a vacuum passage. Lu Ming's pupils shrank. This punch gave him a lot of pressure. Without the slightest hesitation, Lu Ming erupted with his full strength, circulating the suppressing hell heavenly art, and punched out. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion rang out. Lu Ming felt an unparalleled force rushing towards him. His body retreated rapidly as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Sizzle, at the same time, there was a terrifying flame burning on his fist, and a burnt smell wafted out. Lu Ming erupted with 4 different concepts and true essence, resisting with all his strength. Only then was he able to block the burning flames. So strong. Lu Ming was shocked. With Lu Ming's current combat strength, he was actually injured by the other party in one move. The other party's combat strength was terrifying to the extreme. Peak of the 5th layer of the spiritual C tier. This was the cultivation that Wang Haoxian displayed. But Lu Ming firmly believed that ordinary 5th layer spirit C realm geniuses would never have such strong combat strength to completely crush him. Die. Wang Haoxian's eyes were cold, and he continued to attack Lu Ming. Don't even think about it. Xian Yinqing and Kong Jin attacked at the same time. Xian Yinqing pressed his hands, and the sky demon power field erupted. The destructive cutting power rushed towards Wang Haoxian crazily. And Kong Jin, carrying the battle axe, rushed into the sky demon power field. The battle axe seemed to be able to split the sky as it chopped towards Wang Haoxian. Watch out! Lu Ming exclaimed. Wang Haoxian didn't even look, and directly punched out towards Kong Jin's battle axe. Dang! The punch hit the battle axe, and a loud sound like a bell rang out. The fatty screamed, and his body retreated rapidly. His fat body trembled crazily, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with shock. Boom! Then, Wang Haoxian's delicate body shook, and purple flames spread out, burning Xian Yinqing's destructive cutting power. Yes, even the destructive cutting power was burned away. Then, he punched out, and the roaring flame fist radiance was aimed at Xian Yinqing. Xian Yinqing's face changed, and he used the sky demon hand. A beautiful arm formed and blasted towards Wang Haoxian's fist radiance. Boom! The result was the same as before. Xian Yinqing was sent flying back, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Although Xian Yinqing and Kong Jin had broken through to the 3rd layer of the Spirit Sea realm, they were still crushed. Let's attack together. He's a god-level genius. Lu Ming flashed over and stood side by side with Xian Yanqing and Kong Jin, looking extremely serious. He thought of a person on the list of top 1,000 talents. Wang Haoxian, a god-level genius ranked 293rd on the list of top 1,000 talents. Her name was so close to Wang Haotian's, so she should be Wang Haotian's sister. Kill. Wang Haoxian was very domineering. Her body was covered in purple flames as she stepped forward. Sky Demon Force Field, Destructive Cutting. Xian Yanqing shouted and pressed her hand, and the destructive cutting power enveloped Wang Haoxian. At the same time, Lu Ming and Kong Jin rushed into the Sky Demon Force Field and attacked Wang Haoxian together. Four-colored wills intertwined, and the battle dragon's genuine origin was completely unleashed. His spiritual sea was boiling, and a powerful devouring power burst out from his left palm, enveloping Wang Haoxian. Kong Jin roared, and his fat body swelled again. The earth wills and shattering wills merged and burst out, destroying everything. His battle axe turned into a black light and chopped at Wang Haoxian. At the same time, Xian Yanqing used the Sky Demon Lotus. A black lotus appeared, and the petals of the lotus were like the sharpest weapons, attacking Wang Haoxian. At this moment, the three of them used their strongest attacks at the same time. They dared not be careless in the face of a god-level genius. Sunset Heavenly Fist. Wang Haoxian's fists glowed, and flames burned as she punched out 3 times in a row. With one punch, Xian Yanqing's lotus was shattered, and the destructive cutting force field collapsed. Xian Yanqing's body trembled, and she retreated madly, blood flowing out of her mouth. With another punch, Kong Jin was sent flying, and the battle axe in his hand trembled non-stop. Especially the fat guy's arm, where blue veins popped out and blood seeped out. Even his palm was deformed. Lu Ming was slightly better, but he was also sent flying 1,000 meters. He spat out a mouthful of blood and felt a sharp pain in his palm, almost breaking his bones. Strong, too strong. The three of them were still injured in an instant. Wang Haoxian had almost no weaknesses. Compared to Wang Haoxian, Lu Ming had almost no advantage in any aspect. First of all, his cultivation base was 3 levels lower than Wang Haoxian. Lu Ming had a god-level bloodline, and so did Wang Haoxian. Lu Ming had the suppressing hell art, a demigod bloodline martial skill, and Wang Haoxian had also mastered a demigod bloodline martial skill. It was said that any bloodline martial skill comprehended from a god-level bloodline would be at least demigod level. Moreover, Wang Haoxian's martial skill was also a god-level martial skill, the Burning Sky Art. The Burning Sky Art's temperature was too high, and it could burn everything. To fight against it, one had to use a large amount of true yuan to resist its burning power. In terms of mentality, Wang Haoxian's mentality of heaven and earth evolved from the mentality of fire. It was extremely powerful, and it had reached the peak of level 2. Although Lu Ming had comprehended 4 mentalities, they were too low level. Even if he used 4 mentalities, he would not be much stronger than Wang Haoxian. Lu Ming's only advantage was that he had cultivated the Super Spirit Sea secret technique, and his true yuan was abundant. His god-level martial skill was also more mature than Wang Haoxian's, and his mentality was a bit stronger. These could make up for the gap of 1 level. However, Wang Haoxian's cultivation base was 3 levels higher than Lu Ming's. Therefore, there was still a 2-level gap between Lu Ming and Wang Haoxian. Chapter 806. Your combat strength is not bad. No wonder my brother died in your hands. But against me, you won't stand a chance. Die. Wang Haoxian's cold voice was filled with killing intent. Boom. The prison-suppressing steel appeared above Lu Ming's head. The golden chakra emitted a dazzling golden light. Wang Haoxian's pupils shrank as she said coldly, "So you have awakened a god-grade bloodline. All the more reason to kill you." As soon as her voice fell, a purple flame appeared above Wang Haoxian's head. As soon as the purple flame appeared, the surrounding space turned into a black zone. It was a phenomenon that even space was about to be burned through. At the same time, a golden chakra surrounded the purple flame, shining brightly. Level 1 God-grade bloodline. In the next moment, the purple flame twisted and turned into a purple firebird. It let out a cry. Wang Haoxian's body turned into a ray of light and rushed into the purple firebird. The purple firebird flapped its wings and turned into a purple light, pouncing towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming also merged with his bloodline. The prison-suppressing steel shook as if it could suppress everything. It suppressed the firebird that Wang Haoxian transformed into. The purple firebird clawed at the prison-suppressing steel. Boom! There was a loud explosion as a force shot towards the ground. 2 mountains exploded and turned into ashes. Similarly, a wisp of flame fell and burned a mountain into ashes. The space shook and the prison-suppressing steel was sent flying like a meteor. It flew back a few thousand meters in an instant. In the process of flying, the prison-suppressing steel turned back into Lu Ming's body and vomited blood. The terrifying thing was that the blood that he vomited immediately burned fiercely. Lu Ming's body was invaded by a powerful flame. It was as if his body was about to be burned into ashes. Bang! His retreating body crashed into a mountain. The mountain exploded and Lu Ming fell among the rubble. Wang Haoxian was too strong. The gap between Lu Ming and her was unbridgeable. Lu Ming! Xian Yanqing exclaimed and was extremely worried. You should worry about yourself first. The purple firebird spoke and turned into a ray of light, pouncing towards Xian Yanqing. Be careful. Empty entry was now in front of Xian Yanqing, and a huge shield appeared in his hand, blocking in front of him. Wang Haoxian's claw slammed into the shield, causing it to shatter. Kong Jin let out a miserable shriek as his body was sent flying far away. Wang Haoxian continued to grab Xian Yanqing. A bronze mirror appeared in front of Xian Yanqing. The bronze mirror emitted a green light. Clang! Wang Haoxian's claw landed on the bronze mirror, causing it to tremble violently. It let out a wailing sound as it flew into Xian Yanqing's forehead. As for Xian Yanqing, he was sent flying far away. The firebird cried out, wanting to continue attacking. Bang! Gravel flew everywhere and Lu Ming dashed out from the rubble. There was lightning flowing in the area between his eyebrows. If you're not dead yet, I'll kill you first. Wang Haoxian said in a cold voice. He flapped his wings and rushed towards Lu Ming. Clang! A melodious sound rang out. A lightning cauldron flew out from Lu Ming's forehead. It grew rapidly until it was as big as a mountain and suppressed Wang Haoxian. The lightning cauldron's power was boundless. By the time Wang Haoxian realized that something was wrong and wanted to dodge, it was already too late. Boom! The huge lightning cauldron slammed into the firebird. The firebird that Wang Haoxian had transformed into was instantly shattered, turning into wisps of purple flames that drifted in all directions. After the lightning cauldron attacked, it shrunk rapidly and flew back into Lu Ming's forehead. Lu Ming's face was pale as he spat out a mouthful of blood. He couldn't control his body and fell. Fortunately, Dandan caught him. Swish! Swish! Xian Yanqing and Kong Jin flew over. However, their breathing was chaotic and they were heavily injured. Are you alright? Xian Yanqing supported Lu Ming and asked worriedly. I'm fine. Lu Ming nodded. After using the lightning cauldron, his Zhen Yuan was extracted and his lifespan was reduced by 50 years. His body was extremely weak. Look! Kong Jin suddenly exclaimed. Lu Ming and the others looked forward and saw that the purple flames that were scattered by the lightning cauldron had reformed in the air. The next moment, the flames turned into Wang Haoxian's body. Wang Haoxian didn't die under the lightning cauldron's attack. However, Wang Haoxian was also severely injured. She coughed out a few mouthfuls of blood. Her face was extremely pale and her breathing was extremely weak. Kong Jin stepped forward, holding a battle axe and staring at Wang Haoxian. If they wanted to fight, they could only risk their lives. However, Wang Haoxian only looked at them coldly and said in a cold voice, "I won't let you off." After saying that, he turned into a ray of fire and flew into the distance. He retreated. "Let's leave this place quickly and find a place to heal. Wang Haoxian won't let this go," Lu Ming said. He could see the bone-deep killing intent in Wang Haoxian's eyes. Wang Haoxian must have retreated temporarily to find a place to heal. Once her injuries were healed, she would definitely chase after them. Therefore, they also had to find a place to heal their injuries. If Wang Haoxian's injuries were not healed, it would be even more difficult for them. Xian Yanqing and Kong Jin supported Lu Ming and flew into the distance. They landed 10,000 miles away. Xian Yanqing and Kong Jin were also very seriously injured. If they continued to fly, they would not be able to hold on for long. They planned to heal their injuries here. In a cave, the three of them sat cross-legged. Lu Ming ran the battle strength scripture with all his strength. Half a day later, he cultivated a new wisp of vital essence. With a wisp of vital essence, Lu Ming began to devour spirit crystals to quickly replenish his vital essence. At the same time, Lu Ming also needed to circulate his vital essence to heal his injured body. After another half a day, Lu Ming had only recovered half of his vital essence. His injuries had basically stabilized and there was no major problem. However, he had lost 50 years of his life, which was a serious loss of life essence. This could not be replenished. At this time, Lu Ming stopped recovering, got up, and walked out of the cave. There was no time. A day had passed, and Wang Haoxian could catch up at any time. He had to prepare early. Walking out of the cave, Lu Ming began to inscribe inscription formations around him. Inscriptions sank into the ground one by one. Lu Ming continued inscribing for half a day and inscribed a dozen formations in total. Lu Ming. Lu Ming. At this time, Xian Yanqing and Kong Jin walked out of the cave. Although the two of them had not fully recovered, at least they had stabilized and had a certain combat strength. "We'll wait here for Wang Haoxian," Lu Ming said. As soon as he finished speaking, he looked at the distant sky. A flame streaked across the void. Wang Haoxian was coming. He was so fast. Whoosh! Wang Haoxian appeared above their heads. "You have my flame aura on you. As long as you don't get rid of it, you can forget about escaping from me." Wang Haoxian's killing intent became even stronger. A genius like her, whose cultivation was far above Lu Ming and the others, was not injured by Lu Ming. In her opinion, this was a great humiliation. "You're just relying on your cultivation. Give me another half a year, and I'll kill you." Chapter 807. Having a high cultivation base is a sign of talent. Only those with low cultivation bases would say such useless things. Kill. Wang Haoxian was very decisive. As soon as she finished speaking, she pounced on Lu Ming and the others. "Retreat!" Lu Ming shouted and retreated quickly with Xian Yanqing and Kong Jin. "You can't escape." Wang Haoxian landed and strode forward. "Is that so?" There was a cold smile at the corners of Lu Ming's lips. He took a step forward and densely packed inscriptions suddenly appeared on the ground. Many large arrays appeared. Sword chi swept out, sabers whistled, and vines wrapped around them as they pounced on Wang Haoxian. "You set up an inscription array here." Wang Haoxian roared and directly used bloodline fusion. She turned into a purple flame and rampaged in the array. "Let's go quickly." Wang Haoxian is too strong, and her bloodline is nature type. After using bloodline fusion, it's extremely difficult to kill her. My inscription array probably won't be able to kill her. Lu Ming whispered. He, Xian Yinqing, and Kong Jin rose into the air and flew into the distance. Lu Ming had just broken through to the 6th level of inscription. It only took him half a day to inscribe an inscription array, and he couldn't kill Wang Haoxian. Lu Ming knew very well that Wang Haoxian could survive the Thunder Cauldron's attack because her vitality was too strong. This was the advantage of nature-type bloodlines. Lu Ming had just lost 50 years of his life. It was difficult for him to control the Thunder Cauldron and launch a second attack. If he forced himself to launch the attack, he would lose a lot of vitality in a short time. It would definitely affect his future cultivation and even his foundation. It would be difficult for him to improve in the future. The only thing he could do now was to trap Wang Haoxian and then retreat. The three of them flew in the direction of 9 dragons. Soon, they had covered a distance of 100,000 miles. Little Qing, Fatty, you two go to the Sky Vault Legacy grounds first. Lu Ming suddenly said. Xian Yinqing and Kong Jin were slightly stunned. Lu Ming, what are you trying to do? You want to deal with Wang Haoxian alone? No way. Xian Yinqing could tell what was on Lu Ming's mind at one glance and rejected him flatly. That's right. That crazy woman is too strong. If you stay here alone, you'll just be throwing your life away. If you want to fight, let's fight together. Kong Jin said. Don't worry, I won't fight her recklessly. Her target is me, so I'll draw them away. You guys go to the Sky Vault ruins. We'll meet at the Sea Cloud sect in half a year. Lu Ming said. No, I won't agree. Xian Yinqing shook his head firmly. Listen to me. My inscription formation can't trap Wang Haoxian for too long. She will catch up with us soon. If it goes on like this, we will die in her hands sooner or later. Don't worry. I alone am 100% sure that I can get rid of Wang Haoxian. Lu Ming said. No. Xian Yinqing still shook his head. Fatty. Lu Ming looked at Kong Jin. Are you really 100% sure? Kong Jin asked. I'm 100% sure, but if the three of us work together, it won't even be 10%. Little Qing, listen to me. Lu Ming said. No, I want to follow you. Don't try to lie to me. Xian Yinqing said stubbornly. Lu Ming was speechless. He sighed and said, well, Fatty, you go first. Little Qing and I will draw Wang Haoxian away. After saying that, Lu Ming walked over and took Xian Yinqing's little hand. At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly made a move. He stretched out his hand and tapped on Xian Yinqing's body a few times. Xian Yinqing did not expect Lu Ming to suddenly attack her. She was caught off guard. At this moment, her body slumped to the ground and she fell into a coma. Lu Ming supported Xian Yinqing and said to Kong Jin, Fatty, take Little Qing to the Sky Vault ruins. Kong Jin was dumbfounded. Hurry up. Don't worry, I'll be fine. It's just that this girl's temper is too stubborn, so I can only do this. She will wake up soon. Lu Ming looked at Fatty with bright eyes. Alright, then take care. Kong Jin sighed. This was the only way now. He also knew that it would be difficult for the three of them to escape Wang Haoxian's pursuit. Lu Ming might be able to do it alone. Lu Ming, if you don't come, I'll see you at the Sea Cloud sect in half a year. Fatty's true essence rolled up Xian Yinqing and quickly flew away. His voice came from afar. Lu Ming landed and sat cross-legged on a mountain peak. He continued to devour spirit crystals to recover his true essence. The 9 dragons' bloodline crazily devoured the spirit crystals. His true essence was quickly recovering. 60%, 70%, 80%. 2 hours later, Lu Ming's true essence had recovered to 80%. At this time, a purple light flashed in the distance. Wang Haoxian's figure appeared in the air. At this time, her breath was a little chaotic and her face was a little pale. Obviously, she had paid a price to break out of those large arrays. You're alone. You want to hold me back and let the other two escape? What a good plan. However, I'll kill you soon, and then I'll kill the other two. Wang Haoxian sneered. Oh, come and kill me if you can. Lu Ming smiled. Humph. Wang Haoxian snorted, but she did not land. She was afraid that Lu Ming would inscribe an inscription array below. I won't go down. I'll kill you all the same. Wang Haoxian sneered and waved her fists. The roaring flame fist burst out and attacked Lu Ming. Lu Ming turned and left. He used the 9 dragons in the sky and chose a different direction from Xian Yanqing and strode away. You want to leave? Not so easy. Wang Haoxian turned into a fiery light and continued to chase Lu Ming. Wang Haoxian's movement technique was not to be underestimated. Her speed was extremely fast. Although Lu Ming used the 9 dragons in the sky, he could only take 4 steps in a row. His level was still a little low. Although he had extreme speed, it was only comparable to Wang Haoxian's. The two of them, one chasing and one escaping, were far away in the blink of an eye. Soon, the two of them had flown a distance of a few million miles. Wang Haoxian was still hot on Lu Ming's tail. Hey, beauty, you want to catch me so badly? I already have a sweetheart. Lu Ming shouted as he used the 9 dragons in the sky. You're courting death. Wang Haoxian shouted angrily. Along the way, as Lu Ming fled, he did not forget to use various words to attack her. She was so angry that her lungs almost exploded. Her murderous intent toward Lu Ming intensified. This woman is too damn difficult to deal with. Lu Ming gritted his teeth and continued flying. In front of him, a boundless mountain forest appeared in front of him. The trees in this forest were exceptionally tall. Strangely, the trees were all black. Even the leaves were black. It was extremely strange. As he approached the forest, he could hear thunderous roars from the forest. The roars of monsters were full of ferocity. Lu Ming rushed in without hesitation. As soon as he rushed in, Lu Ming's expression changed drastically. He felt that his body seemed to be more than 10 times heavier. There was a kind of pressure between heaven and earth that was pressing down on him, greatly reducing his speed. At least 10 times slower. But now, he could only try his best to move forward. Chapter 808. What is this place? Lu Ming's mind spun rapidly as he moved forward. Roar! Before he could fly far, a black tiger-shaped beast rushed out from below and pounced at him. This tiger-shaped beast was hairless, but it was covered in black scales. Its eyes were blood-red, and there was no sign of intelligence. Instead, it was filled with savagery. The wind howled. This tiger-shaped beast had the battle prowess of a peak king. Lu Ming took a step forward, and a trace of power burst out. This tiger-shaped beast was directly blasted down, falling to the ground below, causing debris to fly everywhere. Lu Ming's speed did not slow down at all as he moved forward rapidly. Behind him, Wang Haoxian chased closely. However, in this forest, the two's speed was much slower. Moreover, there were fierce beasts pouncing at the two from time to time, causing them to be unable to fly at full speed. Moreover, the deeper they flew, the higher the level of the fierce beasts that appeared. In the beginning, the beasts that appeared were all Peak King level beasts. Towards the end, the beasts that appeared were equivalent to the first and second layer of the spiritual sea realm. These beasts did not have any intelligence, and were filled with savagery. When they saw them, they would pounce at them. The two chased and fled. After half a day, they had only flown tens of thousands of miles. This forest was boundless, and they were still in the forest. Mad Beast Forest. Lu Ming, you've come to the Mad Beast Forest. Suddenly, a voice sounded in Lu Ming's mind. This voice was not Dandan's, but Supreme Nine Sons. Senior Nine Sons. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Ever since he saw Liao Tsang in the underground world, Supreme Nine Sons had woken up once, and then he continued to sleep. He did not expect to wake up now. Senior Nine Sons, is this called the Mad Beast Forest? Lu Ming communicated with Supreme Nine Sons. You should have arrived at Nine Dragon City, right? This should be the Mad Beast Forest. I left something here back then, and it resonated with me. That's why I woke up from my sleep. Supreme Nine Sons' voice sounded in Lu Ming's mind. He continued, looks like you're being chased. Being chased by a crazy woman. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. How about this, you can hide in the Temple of Paragon for a while. Supreme Nine Yang said. Entering the Temple of Paragon? Lu Ming was stunned. In the past, Supreme Master Jiu Yang had set up restrictions in the Temple of Paragon so that he wouldn't be able to enter the Temple of Paragon when he was in danger. His goal had been to train him, but now, he had taken the initiative to let him enter the Temple of Paragon. As if he had seen Lu Ming's confusion, Supremacy Jiu Yang said, in the past, I just wanted to train you. I didn't want you to rely too much on the Temple of Paragon. If you were in danger, you would hide in the Temple of Paragon. That way, you wouldn't be as strong as you used to be. You would lose the opportunity to train yourself. But now, your cultivation level isn't bad. You've experienced a lot and gained a lot of experience. Your martial heart is stable. So, this kind of restriction doesn't mean anything to you. In the future, you can enter the Temple of Paragon whenever you want. You can also let other people in. Supreme Nine Yang explained. Lu Ming nodded. He was overjoyed. There were no restrictions in the Temple of Paragon, and he could bring other people in. That would be very useful to him. Lu Ming, don't be happy too early. The Temple of Paragon was my weapon back then. After you entered the Temple of Paragon just disappeared into the void. So, other people can't see it. However, your cultivation level isn't weak now. The enemies you meet in the future will be stronger. Spiritual embryo realm cultivators can sense the void. Even if you hide in the Temple of Paragon, you'll be discovered and forced out. On the other hand, domain enlightened spirit gods are even capable of tearing space apart at will. So, hiding in the Temple of Paragon when encountering such an expert would only be like catching a turtle in a jar and falling into a passive state. So, one's own strength is the way to go. Supreme Nine Yang reminded him seriously. I understand. Lu Ming nodded. However, Lu Ming didn't plan to hide in the Temple of Paragon now. Only half a day had passed. If he hid in the Temple of Paragon now and Wang Haoxian couldn't find him, she might go after Xian Yanqing and Kong Jin. Lu Ming planned to delay Wang Haoxian. After a few days, Xian Yanqing and Kong Jin would refine all the fire aura Wang Haoxian had left on them. After entering the Sky Vault ruins, it would be difficult for Wang Haoxian to find Xian Yanqing and the others. It would be almost impossible. Only then would Lu Ming be at ease. So, Lu Ming didn't enter the Temple of Paragon. Instead, he dragged Wang Haoxian and continued flying in the wild beast forest. As they flew, Lu Ming talked to Supreme Nine Yang. Senior Nine Yang, why is this forest so strange? Not only is there a lot of pressure here, even the demonic beasts don't have intelligence and are extremely fierce. Lu Ming asked curiously. Normally, King Realm demonic beasts could speak, and Sea of Soul Realm demonic beasts could transform into human form. However, along the way, Lu Ming had already met a lot of Sea of Soul Realm demonic beasts. Not to mention transforming into human form, none of them could even speak. There are many strange places in the world, and the wild beast forest is one of them. Legend has it that a long time ago, the blood of a peerless expert was scattered here, covering a radius of 1,000,000 miles. The blood contained the murderous aura, resentment, and murderous aura of a peerless expert. The blood turned this place into a forbidden land, and the earth's structure changed. It was filled with a strange energy field that suppressed any living being that entered. At the same time, the demonic beasts here were affected by the murderous aura, resentment, and murderous aura in the blood and became extremely fierce. They lost their intelligence and became ferocious demonic beasts that only know how to kill. That's why it's called the Wild Beast Forest. Supreme Nine Yang explained. Lu Ming understood, but he was shocked. This place was actually caused by the blood of a peerless expert. The blood covered a radius of 1,000,000 miles and changed the earth's structure. In the endless years to come, the demonic beasts would be affected by the murderous aura and become wild beasts. How powerful was that? What kind of realm was that? It was impossible for a martial emperor expert to do that. It was definitely an existence that surpassed the martial emperor realm. But now, was there such a powerful existence in the world? In the divine wilderness continent, martial emperors were revered, and martial emperors were synonymous with invincibility. They were the strongest experts. Perhaps, there were existences that surpassed the martial emperor realm outside the divine wilderness continent? He thought of the autumn moon. It was very likely that the autumn moon had been taken away by the experts outside the divine wilderness continent. Lu Ming, I built a temporary cave in the wild beast forest and left many things inside. They should be of great help to you. Supreme Nine Yang spoke again, which made Lu Ming's heart beat faster. Who was Supreme Nine Yang? He was a martial emperor, the strongest expert below the martial emperor realm. He was at the peak of the spiritual god realm. How shocking would the things he left behind be? Chapter 809. Everyone had plans to leave a way out for themselves. Paragon Nine Sons was no exception. Before his accident, he had left behind a few hidden caves in various places. There was one in the wild beast forest. Apart from Supreme Nine Yang himself, no one else knew about this secret cave. He had woken up from his slumber when he was near Supreme Nine Yang's cave. Supreme Nine Yang told Lu Ming the approximate location. I'll go in 2 days. I'll delay Wang Haoxian for a few days. Lu Ming thought. For the next 3 days, Lu Ming didn't go deep into the wild beast forest. He led Wang Haoxian around the forest. After 3 days, their speeds were about the same. Lu Ming couldn't shake Wang Haoxian off, and Wang Haoxian couldn't catch up with Lu Ming. I don't believe that your true origin energy is stronger than mine. Wang Haoxian screamed. She was so angry that her eyes were burning. It had been 3 days. She had chased Lu Ming for 3 days. Her killing intent towards Lu Ming hadn't lessened. Instead, it had intensified. It's about time to shake her off. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. It had been almost 4 days. Xian Yanqing and Kong Jin should have already refined the flame aura left by Wang Haoxian and entered the Sky Archipelago. Lu Ming planned to shake Wang Haoxian off and head to Supreme Nine Yang's cave. Whoosh! Lu Ming took a few steps forward and flew forward rapidly. A lake appeared in front of him. Lu Ming dashed into the lake and entered the Temple of Paragon with a single thought. It's not that easy to escape from the bottom of the lake. The next moment, Wang Haoxian caught up with Lu Ming and struck him with his palm. Scorching flames spread out and the entire lake evaporated instantly. There was endless fog between heaven and earth. All that was left was the dry bottom of the lake and Lu Ming had disappeared without a trace. Damn it! Did he escape from the ground? Don't even think about it. Wang Haoxian roared and punched out. The ground cracked, and rocks and dirt flew everywhere. However, Lu Ming was nowhere to be seen. Wang Haoxian went crazy and began to search the surroundings. Lu Ming was too lazy to care about all of this. He started devouring spiritual crystals in the Temple of Paragon to recover. 2 days later, Lu Ming's cultivation had completely recovered, and he was back to his peak condition. At this moment, he left the Temple of Paragon. Wang Haoxian had already disappeared without a trace. Lu Ming quickly headed in the direction that Supreme Nine Yang had mentioned. After flying for thousands of miles, Lu Ming suddenly rushed into the forest below. With a wave of his hands, the inscription formation to restrain his aura appeared on his body and completely restrained his aura. Soon, he saw Wang Haoxian flying in the sky with a gloomy face. This woman really wouldn't give up until she was dead. After that, Lu Ming didn't fly in the sky anymore. Instead, he shuttled through the forest. With the inscription formation to restrain his aura, he could easily avoid the demonic beasts. Lu Ming's speed was still very fast. An hour later, Lu Ming ran for thousands of miles and appeared at the bottom of a huge cliff. Senior Nine Yang, the entrance to the cave you mentioned is on the cliff? Why didn't I find it? Lu Ming asked. There's a mark on the cliff. The entrance is there. Supreme Nine Yang's voice sounded. Lu Ming walked over. True enough, there was a notch on one of the cliff walls. Lu Ming observed it carefully and pushed it with his hand, but it didn't move at all. It didn't seem like there was an entrance. Similarly, Lu Ming didn't find any traces of inscriptions. Lu Ming, I've set up an array that alternates between illusion and reality here. This array is extremely mysterious. If you treat this place as something substantial, it will be substantial. If you think of it as an illusion in your heart, then this cliff doesn't exist. It will be an illusion. When you take a step forward, you will naturally enter the cave abode. Supreme Nine Yang said. It's actually an array. Lu Ming exclaimed. This array was very advanced. Even Lu Ming didn't know how to use it now. Setting up such an array to protect the cave could be said to be foolproof. For example, if you set up an array at the entrance of a cave, this array would make the cave and the surrounding environment look exactly the same. When ordinary people saw it, they would only think that it was a mountain. Even if they walked over, they would feel that it was a mountain. However, if you thought that this place was a cave, you would be able to enter the cave if you walked over. It was extremely mysterious. Therefore, even if people came here over the years, they wouldn't stare at a cliff and think that it was a cave and that it was an entrance, unless they knew about it. Moreover, the inscription array could perfectly integrate with the surrounding environment. It was very difficult to sense the existence of inscriptions. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Then, he strode toward the cliff. Just as he was about to hit his head on the cliff, he saw that the cliff seemed to be empty. Lu Ming's body simply disappeared from the cliff. Lu Ming stepped in and discovered that he had appeared in a huge cave abode. The cave was quite big, but it was very simple. There was only a stone bed, a stone table, and a few stone stools. On the table, there was a jade box, and in the jade box, there were a few storage rings. In the innermost part of the cave, there were 2 small trees. The trees were as tall as a person. The leaves were dark green and emitted a strange aura. On the small trees, there were a few fruits. The soul-consolidating tree really bore fruit. Supreme Nine Yang's figure appeared. Looking at the 2 little trees, he let out a look of joy. Soul-consolidating tree? Lu Ming was a little puzzled. The soul-consolidating tree and the soul-consolidating fruit are very helpful to the spirit god and even the soul. I got them by accident and planted them here. I didn't expect them to bear fruit. With these two soul-consolidating trees and the soul-consolidating fruit, I can recover part of my soul power. Supreme Nine Yang explained. Congratulations, Senior. Lu Ming was also overjoyed. He also hoped that Supreme Nine Yang could recover. Lu Ming, during this period of time, I will recuperate under the soul-consolidating tree. I reckon it will take some time. In those storage rings, there are some things that I left here back then. Although there are no peerless treasures, they should be useful to you. After Supreme Nine Yang finished speaking, he flew to the two soul-consolidating trees and plucked a fruit. He held it in his hand and sat down cross-legged. Lu Ming sized it up and walked to the stone table. He picked up one of the storage rings and sank his consciousness into it. In the next moment, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The storage ring was full of spirit weapons and all kinds of refining materials. Among them, most of the spirit weapons were of the 6th grade. There were also 7th grade and even 8th grade spirit weapons. Shocking, too shocking. One had to know that the full power of a 7th grade spirit weapon could only be unleashed by someone in the spirit embryo realm. As for 8th grade spirit weapons, they could only be unleashed by someone in the spirit god realm. Not only did the storage ring have them, there were also quite a few of them. As for those crafting materials, they were all rare materials. If these spirit weapons and refining materials were taken out, their value would be immeasurable. Lu Ming put them away happily. Chapter 8:10. The second storage ring was filled with elixirs, various spiritual herbs, and spiritual herbs. All of them were of high grade. There were grade 6, grade 7, and even grade 8 elixirs. All of them were stored in jade boxes and sealed with an array to prevent their spiritual essence from leaking out. Lu Ming's saliva almost flowed out of his mouth. He hurriedly looked at the third storage ring. There were a total of 3 storage rings here. The third storage ring contained some miscellaneous items. Lu Ming's gaze was immediately attracted by the pile of raw stones that resembled a mountain. Yes, raw stones piled up like a mountain. He didn't know how many there were. On the other side, there were large metal boxes. When he opened them, they were filled with esoteric crystals. There were all kinds of esoteric crystals, and all of them were mid-grade esoteric crystals. There were more than 100,000 of them. More than 100,000 mid-grade esoteric crystals, what kind of concept was that? Lu Ming's heart thumped loudly. Rich, really rich. Supreme Nine Sons indeed. Supreme Nine Sons said that there were no treasures, but in Lu Ming's eyes, they were all treasures. How long would these resources be enough for Lu Ming? Senior Nine Sons, I will definitely make good use of these resources. Lu Ming said in his heart. Then, his consciousness sank into the storage ring filled with elixirs and spiritual herbs, carefully inspecting them. This is Xiantian origin liquid. Lu Ming's eyes suddenly lit up. He found 2 large jade bottles filled with Xiantian origin liquid. Moreover, they were all high-grade Xiantian origin liquid. Each bottle weighed at least 100 jin. In total, there were 200 jin of Xiantian origin liquid. This was a supreme spiritual liquid for cultivating one's physical body. This is Mother Spring water. Lu Ming recognized a treasure in the other jade bottle. Mother Spring water was a kind of spiritual liquid that was even more precious than high-grade Xiantian origin liquid. This Mother Spring water is perfect for nurturing the Enlightenment Ancient Tree. With a thought from Lu Ming, the Enlightenment Ancient Tree appeared on the ground. Lu Ming took out the Mother of Water Spirit Spring and poured the entire bottle onto the profound yellow silicon soil. Lu Ming was looking forward to seeing if the Tao Comprehension Ancient Tree could grow with this bottle of Mother Spring water. Then, he put the Enlightenment Ancient Tree into the Temple of Paragon. Then, he looked at it in his storage ring. Green lotus fruit, snake flower, underworldine grass, Lu Ming looked at the spiritual grasses one by one. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. With a flick of his wrist, a jade box appeared in his hand. It's actually underworldine grass. The corners of Lu Ming's mouth curled up into a sneer. He recalled a type of medicine called dark Yin powder. He had learned about this medicine when he refined the spiritual fire of the seven-colored Taoist. The netherworldine powder was specifically used to deal with women. As long as a woman breathed in even a little bit, she would lose all strength and be unable to circulate her Zhen Yuan. She would be at the mercy of others. The main ingredient of the netherworldine powder was the underworldine grass. Originally, Lu Ming wasn't interested in this kind of medicine. However, when he saw the underworldine grass, he thought of Wang Haoxian. Didn't Wang Haoxian want to kill him? Then, he would let her have a taste of the underworldine grass. Immediately, Lu Ming selected a few supplementary herbs and began to refine the netherworldine powder. 2 hours later, Lu Ming successfully refined the netherworldine powder. Wang Haoxian, I hope you haven't left yet. A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. He then left the cave and appeared outside the cliff. Then, Lu Ming flew into the sky. Now, he wanted to take the initiative to look for Wang Haoxian. Lu Ming flew quickly in the sky and circled around the area. More than an hour later, Lu Ming's eyes moved. In front of him, a fiery light flashed rapidly. It was Wang Haoxian. Lu Ming, I finally found you. Wang Haoxian screamed. Her face was hideous. She was obviously beautiful, but at this moment, there was no sense of beauty at all. Wang Haoxian, you've been chasing me for a few days. Do you miss me so much? Why don't you forget about your brother's revenge and be my concubine? Lu Ming chuckled and deliberately provoked Wang Haoxian. You're courting death. Wang Haoxian shouted angrily and rushed over quickly. She didn't think much about why Lu Ming didn't run away. She was furious now. I, Lu Ming, am a genius. It won't be a disgrace for you to be my concubine. Lu Ming continued to provoke Wang Haoxian. Sure enough, Wang Haoxian was even angrier. She pounced on Lu Ming in an instant and threw a punch at him. It was extremely terrifying. Lu Ming performed the hell-suppressing heaven skill and struck out with his palm. In this palm, a wisp of underworldine powder spread toward Wang Haoxian. Bang! The fist and the palm collided. Lu Ming's body trembled and he quickly retreated. He felt his blood and qi surging and he almost vomited blood. I hope it works. Lu Ming thought. Wang Haoxian's body was surrounded by raging flames that could burn everything. However, the underworldine powder contained the qi of the underworld. It was extremely cold and could resist the burning of the flames. Die. After Wang Haoxian punched Lu Ming back, she threw out another punch. Lu Ming once again raised his palm and this time, a wisp of underworldine powder spread out. Wang Haoxian was furious and didn't notice it at all. In this way, Lu Ming and Wang Haoxian exchanged 5 moves in a row. Lu Ming was pushed back 5 kilometers and spat out a mouthful of blood. No, the underworldine powder will probably take a while to take effect. Let's go first. Lu Ming turned around and ran. Don't even think about running. Wang Haoxian chased after him. One chased and one fled. In a short while, they had flown thousands of miles. Wang Haoxian, who was chasing, suddenly changed her expression. Her body trembled and she almost fell to the ground. It's working. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He stopped and turned around to look at Wang Haoxian with a sneer. What did you do to me? Wang Haoxian glared at Lu Ming. Nothing. Just a little bit of poison. Now, do you feel weak all over and can't use your true essence? Lu Ming sneered. You, despicable. Wang Haoxian's face turned pale. Despicable? Do you think I can be as despicable as your Wang family? Now, you're the one who's going to die. Lu Ming stepped out and attacked Wang Haoxian. Wang Haoxian gritted her teeth and turned around to run. Lu Ming chased after her. However, Wang Haoxian had been poisoned by the underworldine powder, and it was getting harder and harder for her to use her true essence. Her speed was greatly reduced. Gradually, she couldn't even fly. She landed on the ground and trembled all over. Boom! Lu Ming also landed. He took a step forward and blasted a palm toward Wang Haoxian. At this time, Wang Haoxian couldn't use her true essence at all. She could only use her intent realm to resist. However, without true essence, her intent realm was extremely limited. Lu Ming destroyed Wang Haoxian's intent realm with one punch. Wang Haoxian groaned and her body flew far away. She fell to the ground and spat out blood. Her face was pale. Kill! Lu Ming stepped out, his murderous intent surging. Wang Haoxian closed her eyes in despair. She didn't expect that she wouldn't be able to kill Lu Ming in revenge for Wang Haoxian. Instead, she would be killed. However, after waiting for a while, she didn't feel Lu Ming's palm landing. She couldn't help but open her eyes, only to see Lu Ming looking at her carefully. His eyes flashed with lust from time to time. Chapter 8:11. Wang Haoxian's heart sank. Lu Ming, kill me if you want. If you humiliate me, I won't let you go even if I become a ghost. Wang Haoxian screamed. Humiliate you? You think too much. Lu Ming said coldly. He didn't kill Wang Haoxian because he thought of a better way. He thought of an inscription array that he learned from Liao Cang, the soul-splitting array. This array was very powerful. If it was engraved in a person's mind, it could penetrate his soul. The person who engraved the array would have complete control over his life and death. Wang Haoxian was very strong in both talent and combat strength. If he could control her, it would be very useful. He could get a lot of useful information from her. However, to engrave such an array, the target must be defenseless. Wang Haoxian couldn't use her genuine qi and was weak. It was the perfect time to do it. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lu Ming pointed at Wang Haoxian's body and completely sealed her. Not only could she not use her genuine qi, but she couldn't even use her will and spiritual fire. Then, Lu Ming took out a drop of Wang Haoxian's blood. Blue spiritual fire spread out from his finger and he started to engrave inscriptions in the void. What? What are you doing? Wang Haoxian said in a trembling voice. She was really panicking. However, Lu Ming didn't care about her and focused on engraving. Lines of inscriptions entered between Wang Haoxian's eyebrows. Wang Haoxian felt that there were more things in her mind and her face became paler. The soul-splitting array was very complicated. It contained 18,000 lines of inscriptions. Lu Ming spent an hour to complete it. Phew! Lu Ming exhaled. Tell me, what did you do to me? Wang Haoxian shouted. I just engraved an array. This array is called the soul-splitting array. It can penetrate your soul and contain my spiritual fire. As long as I use my mind, the soul-splitting array can tear your soul and turn you into an idiot. Lu Ming laughed. Wang Haoxian's face turned even paler. She screamed, You are despicable. You are shameless. You will die a horrible death. Lu Ming smiled faintly. He extended his finger like the wind and tapped on Wang Haoxian's body, releasing her seal. Then, he sat down cross-legged and waited quietly. He was waiting for Wang Haoxian to recover. An hour passed in the blink of an eye. Boom! Wang Haoxian's body emitted terrifying flames. Her killing intent was as cold as ice. Lu Ming, your biggest mistake is that you didn't kill me. Now, die. Wang Haoxian bellowed. Really? Did you forget that I inscribed the soul-splitting array in your mind? Lu Ming sneered. I don't care what you've engraved. Once I kill you, everything will be solved. Wang Haoxian's figure moved, charging towards Lu Ming. But in the next moment, Wang Haoxian's body stiffened, and a painful expression appeared on his face. Ah! A painful scream came out of Wang Haoxian's mouth. She held her head and rolled on the ground. Stop, stop! Wang Haoxian screamed, seeming to be in extreme pain. Lu Ming smiled faintly and stopped controlling the soul-splitting array. Only then did Wang Haoxian stop. She knelt on the ground and panted heavily. In just a short while, her body was drenched in cold sweat. Her thin clothes stuck to her body, accentuating her curvaceous figure. Her face was pale. She looked at Lu Ming in horror and shouted, "You're despicable, you're shameless. Kill me if you dare." Kill you? Why would I kill you? You're very useful to me when you're alive. Lu Ming chuckled. Moreover, let me tell you, the soul-splitting array was created by my spiritual fire. It is completely controlled by my will. As long as I want it, it will activate. Moreover, don't even think about asking the elders of your Wang clan to undo it for you. Other than me, no one can undo it. If you try to forcefully undo it, the soul-splitting array will tear apart your soul and turn you into an idiot. Lu Ming's words made Wang Haoxian's face turn even paler. What are you trying to do? Wang Haoxian said in despair. It's very simple. You just have to stay by my side and be my maid in the future. Lu Ming said faintly. What? Be your maid? Dream on. I'd rather die than be your maid. Wang Haoxian screamed. Who was she? She was the pride of the Wang family and a famous beauty in Jiulong City. She was both beautiful and talented. Countless people fancied her. She was a god-level genius who was respected by many. As long as she continued to walk like this, she would have a great chance of becoming a spirit god in the future. Now, Lu Ming actually asked her to be his servant girl. How could she possibly agree and accept this? She would rather die than submit. You'd better agree. As long as I think about it, the soul-splitting array will turn you into an idiot. Believe it or not, I'll sell you to a brothel after turning you into an idiot. TSK, TSK. Countless men will go crazy if the god-level genius, Wang Haoxian, works as a prostitute in a brothel. Lu Ming sneered. Wang Haoxian's face was pale without a trace of blood. Her body trembled violently. If that was really the case, it would be a great humiliation for her. It would be 10 times or 100 times worse than killing her. She looked at Lu Ming with fear and a strong murderous intent in her eyes. She really wanted to kill Lu Ming with one move, but she didn't dare to. No matter how fast she attacked, it was impossible for her to be faster than Lu Ming's thoughts. She was really afraid that Lu Ming would turn her into an idiot and sell her to a brothel. I forgot to tell you something. The soul-splitting array is closely related to me. As long as I die, the soul-splitting array will automatically explode. So, don't think about killing me. You have to protect me in the future. Understand? Lu Ming said. Wang Haoxian was even more desperate. What do you want me to do? Let me tell you, if you want to do something to me or something that I can't do, I'd rather die than submit. Wang Haoxian gritted her teeth and agreed. Lu Ming smiled and strode forward. He reached out and gently lifted Wang Haoxian's chin. Wang Haoxian's body trembled and her eyes flashed with killing intent. She was really humiliated. The anger in her heart was about to burn her whole body. It was too sullen. Lu Ming was the enemy who killed her brother. She came here to kill Lu Ming for revenge. However, in the end, not only did she fail to kill Lu Ming, but she also fell into Lu Ming's hands. She even had to become Lu Ming's maid and listen to his orders. Not only that, but she also had to protect his safety. Was there anything more sullen in the world than that? Don't worry, I'm not interested in you. Lu Ming smiled faintly and took a few steps back. Such an understatement made Wang Haoxian so angry that her body heaved up and down. Her towering breasts trembled for a while. To be honest, Wang Haoxian was very beautiful. She could be called a peerless beauty with graceful curves. Countless geniuses pursued her. Now that Lu Ming said he was not interested, it was an invisible blow to Wang Haoxian. What I want you to do is very simple. In the future, stay with me in this wild beast forest and hunt demonic beasts to obtain their blood essence. In the future, you have to come here every 7 days to hand in 70% of the blood essence of demonic beasts above the 5th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. For now, just do this one thing. Chapter 8:12. Since there was a free fighter, he naturally had to make full use of it. In the wild beast forest, there were countless powerful beasts. If he went to hunt beasts and devour their blood essence, the speed would be too slow. With Wang Haoxian by his side, he would be able to devote more energy to cultivation. Okay, I promise you. Wang Haoxian gritted her teeth. This request was not difficult, so she could accept it. She was afraid that Lu Ming would make some unreasonable requests, such as warming the bed. 7 days to hand over 7 portions of blood essence of beasts above the 5th layer of the spiritual sea realm. On average, killing 1 5th layer spiritual sea realm beast per day would be enough. This was not difficult for her. After 7 days, we'll meet here. If you come, I'll take it that you betrayed me, and I'll directly activate the soul-splitting formation. Lu Ming said coldly. Then, his figure flashed, and he left. Lu Ming, Lu Ming. Wang Haoxian's eyes flashed with shocking killing intent. Her body trembled violently, and her beautiful face was about to twist. She hated, she was furious. After a while, she took a deep breath and calmed herself down. She planned to listen to Lu Ming's instructions for the time being. In the future, she would find a chance to get the method to break the formation from Lu Ming, and then kill Lu Ming. But first, she had to endure the humiliation. Thinking of this, she completely calmed down. Her figure flashed, and she also left to hunt beasts. Lu Ming naturally did not know what Wang Haoxian was thinking. Even if he knew, he would not care. He was confident that after a while, he would surpass Wang Haoxian in terms of battle strength. Returning to Supreme Nine Yang's cave, Supreme Nine Yang was still sitting cross-legged under the soul-consolidating tree. It seemed like it would take some time. Lu Ming took out a pile of origin stones and sat cross-legged. The 9 dragons' bloodline appeared, and he devoured 100 origin stones in one go. Then, he used all his strength to refine and increase his true origin. After refining 100 origin stones, another 100 origin stones. Rumble. In the spiritual sea, the waves roared, overturning rivers and seas. When Lu Ming refined 800 origin stones, the area of the spiritual sea doubled again. Lu Ming's cultivation entered the 3rd layer of the spiritual sea realm. Then, he continued to refine the origin stone. After another 4 days, Lu Ming's cultivation rose to the peak of the 3rd layer of the spiritual ocean tier. At the peak of the 3rd layer of the spiritual sea realm, Lu Ming had reached a bottleneck. If he wanted to advance further, he would have to train both the earth concept and the thunder concept to the lower tier of the 2nd level before he could continue to advance. 7 days have passed. Let's go and see if Wang Haoxian has brought back the blood essence. With a thought, Lu Ming left the cave and went to the place where he and Wang Haoxian had agreed to meet last time. From afar, Wang Haoxian could be seen sitting cross-legged. Her entire body was surrounded by a layer of fire, making her look like a goddess of fire. To be honest, Wang Haoxian, who was cultivating with her eyes closed and had no killing intent, was still very beautiful. Flames danced around her, giving her a mesmerizing feeling. When Lu Ming arrived, Wang Haoxian opened her eyes. "Have you obtained the blood essence of the demonic beasts?" Lu Ming asked with a smile. "Here." Wang Haoxian waved her hand, and 7 jade bottles flew towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming picked up a jade bottle and looked inside. There were 9 drops of blood essence that looked like blood-red pearls. It was the blood essence of the demonic beasts. If the blood essence of demonic beasts above the 5th layer of the spiritual ocean tier was taken out and sealed in a jade bottle, it could be kept for a month without dissipating. The more powerful the being, the stronger the energy and activity of the blood essence, and the longer it could be kept. After throwing the blood essence to Lu Ming, Wang Haoxian turned and left. "Stop!" Lu Ming shouted coldly. Wang Haoxian's body trembled. She turned around and looked at Lu Ming, saying, "What do you want now? Don't forget your identity. You are now my maid." "Is this how a maid treats her master?" Lu Ming narrowed his eyes and said with a smile. Wang Haoxian gritted her teeth, glaring at Lu Ming with hatred. "What do you want?" Wang Haoxian gritted her teeth. "A maid should have the attitude of a maid. Otherwise, I will make you warm my bed." Lu Ming's lips curled into an evil smile. "Don't even think about it." Wang Haoxian's face was red with anger. Her eyes widened, and after a while, she finally gave in. She bowed slightly, gnashing her teeth, and said, young Master Lu Ming, I will take my leave." Saying this seemed to take all of Wang Haoxian's strength. She was panting slightly. "Again, if you are not sincere enough, and you are gnashing your teeth like this, people who don't know will think that you want to eat me, and think that there is some deep hatred between us. Say it properly, and remember, your attitude must be sincere. You must treat me as a young master from the bottom of your heart, a young master who is respected by you. Do you understand?" Lu Ming started giving instructions. Wang Haoxian almost spat out blood. She roared in her heart, "There is a deep hatred between us, okay? And you want to be sincere? How?" If she was not controlled by the formation, she would chop Lu Ming into pieces. How could she be sincere? "Young Master Lu Ming, I will take my leave." Wang Haoxian took a deep breath, and then spoke. Her voice was softer than before. "Forget it, just so. Practice more in the future. Go." Lu Ming waved his hand discontentedly. This made Wang Haoxian's chest rise and fall again. She kept telling herself in her heart, "Endure, you must endure. Only by enduring can you have a chance to take revenge on Lu Ming later." After Wang Haoxian left, Lu Ming also returned to the cave residence. Then, he opened the 7 jade bottles one by one. Of the 7 blood essences, 5 were from the 5th layer of the spiritual C tier, and 2 were from the 6th layer of the spiritual C tier. The 9 dragons' bloodline opened its mouth, swallowed all the blood essences, and began to refine them. Now, Lu Ming used all the blood essences to upgrade the 9 dragons' bloodline. First, he would upgrade the 9 dragons' bloodline to the divine grade. Then, he would have 2 divine grade bloodlines, and his battle strength would be even stronger. In less than a day, all the blood essences were refined. Obviously, these blood essences were not enough to upgrade the 9 dragons' bloodline to the divine grade. Senior 9 sons will probably need some time to recover here. Now that Xiaoqing and the fatty are not in danger, it is most suitable for them to cultivate in the Sky Vault Legacy grounds. I will cultivate here. Lu Ming sat cross-legged on the ground, thinking about the direction of cultivation. 9 Dragons' Heaven Stomping Steps is not far from the 5th step. There is also the 3 unique skills of the Dragon God. I have to find time to integrate the Earth concept into it. This way, I will have another way to fight the enemy. Of course, the most important thing is the comprehension of the concept. Also, I can't neglect the Tao of inscription. Thinking of this, Lu Ming's fingers glowed, and the infinite dragon spear appeared in his hand. Senior 9 Sons has a lot of precious metals here. I can refine the infinite dragon spear. With a thought, a piece of metal appeared in his hand. This piece of metal was called Star Moon Iron. On it, there were little star-like patterns, and it was very beautiful. Blue spiritual fire appeared in Lu Ming's hand, and it wrapped around the Star Moon Iron and began to burn it. Soon, the Star Moon Iron softened, and finally turned into a pool of liquid that wrapped around the infinite dragon spear. Lu Ming waved his fingers, and lines of inscriptions bloomed in the air, flying toward the infinite dragon spear. Chapter 8:13. The infinite dragon spear had an infinite amount of black metal. It could continuously fuse with other precious metals to upgrade the infinite dragon spear's grade. Although Supreme 9 Yang's storage ring contained higher-grade spiritual weapons, such as LV7 and even LV8, there was no lack of spear-type spiritual weapons. However, although those spiritual weapons were of high quality, they had no potential and their grades were fixed. The infinite dragon spear was Lu Ming's natal spiritual weapon and had unlimited potential. Naturally, Lu Ming chose to use the infinite dragon spear. 3 hours later, the infinite dragon spear let out a buzzing sound and shone brightly. LV6, Supreme Grade. A smile appeared on Lu Ming's face. After fusing with a piece of precious Star Moon metal and adding Lu Ming's inscriptions, the infinite dragon spear was upgraded to LV6 Supreme Grade. In the sky, there seemed to be an inscription power descending and fusing with Lu Ming's spiritual fire, causing his spiritual fire to slowly rise. This was the reward given to him by the law of inscription after refining a LV6 Supreme Grade spiritual weapon. Lu Ming was not satisfied with the LV6 Supreme Grade spiritual weapon. He took out another piece of precious metal and began to refine it. A day later, the infinite dragon spear vibrated again and reached LV6 Supreme Grade. With Lu Ming's current inscription skills and good materials, it was not difficult for him to refine a LV6 Supreme Grade spiritual weapon. Next, Lu Ming wanted to refine the infinite dragon spear to LV7, which was a little difficult. Lu Ming took out a few pieces of precious metal. Blue spiritual fire spread out and Lu Ming began to refine it. This time, it took a total of 3 days. Buzz! The infinite dragon spear vibrated continuously and spear light shot up to the sky. Lu Ming quickly waved his hand and brought the infinite dragon spear into the Temple of Paragon so as not to disturb Supreme 9 Yang. The infinity dragon spear emitted a brilliant glow as a powerful aura spread out from it. LV7, Superior LV7. Lu Ming's eyes brightened, revealing a look of great joy. Success! Lu Ming had raised the infinite dragon spear to the upper grade of the 7th rank. If others knew that he had forged a 7th rank spirit weapon, they would probably be scared to death. If an inscription master was able to create a peak or peerless spirit weapon of their own level, it would already be very impressive. To create a spirit weapon of a higher level was too difficult. Normal true inscription masters would not be able to do it. Furthermore, the higher the grade of the spirit weapon, the harder it was to refine it. And now, Lu Ming had only lit up one of his level 6 blue spirit lamps. If he could light up a few more, it wouldn't be impossible for him to refine a level 7 spirit lamp, or even a level 7 spirit lamp. Strands of inscription energy descended from the unseen world. Lu Ming's spirit flame kept growing stronger. Suddenly, the light of the 2nd spirit lamp flashed, and a blue flame ignited. Lu Ming had lit up the 2nd blue spirit lamp, and his spirit power was even stronger. Lu Ming revealed a look of joy. Holding the long spear in his hand, he waved it casually. The space trembled, and a faint dragon roar could be heard. Then, Lu Ming put away the infinite dragon spear. The Enlightenment ancient tree is changing. Suddenly, Lu Ming's figure moved and appeared on another platform. The Enlightenment ancient tree was placed here. At this time, the Enlightenment ancient tree was sparkling and there were circles of light spreading out. A mysterious aura floated out. On the pitch-black branch, there was a green leaf. It was dark green and crystal clear. There were mysterious patterns on it, as if it contained the truth of the universe. And next to this dark green leaf, a second green leaf appeared. More than 10 days ago, Lu Ming watered the mother spring on the mysterious yellow silicon soil. Sure enough, the mother spring was worthy of being called a rare treasure in the world. It successfully made the Enlightenment ancient tree grow a second leaf. Lu Ming closed his eyes and carefully comprehended. After a while, he opened his eyes, and there was a look of surprise in his eyes. The Enlightenment ancient tree's second leaf had indeed greatly increased Lu Ming's comprehension speed. In the past, it was equivalent to 10 times the normal state. Now, it was 20 times. Yes, under the Enlightenment ancient tree, Lu Ming's state of comprehension was 20 times the normal state. Lu Ming was naturally ecstatic. In this way, his cultivation speed could be increased again. The Enlightenment ancient tree was indeed a rare treasure in the world. In ancient times, only the strongest could possess it. Immediately, Lu Ming sat cross-legged and quietly comprehended the will of heaven and earth. Soon, 7 days passed. Lu Ming went out and collected the blood essence of the demonic beasts that Wang Haoxian had sent. This time, there were 4 blood essences of demonic beasts in the 5th level of the spiritual sea realm and 3 blood essences of demonic beasts in the 6th level of the spiritual sea realm. After refining, the 9 dragons' bloodline still did not advance. Just like this, every 7 days, Lu Ming refined the blood essence. The rest of the time was spent on cultivation. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed since Lu Ming had controlled Wang Haoxian. During this time, Lu Ming had made great progress in all aspects, especially in the will of heaven and earth and the thunder will, which had reached the lower 2nd level. The earth will was also close. At this time, the 9 dragons' bloodline had finally reached its limit and was about to advance. This was the 4th time that Lu Ming had refined the blood essence of the demonic beasts that Wang Haoxian had sent. In the Temple of Paragon. Roar! The 9 dragons' bloodline roared to the sky. Its body twisted and turned in the air. Its body was filled with light. As the 9 holes bloodline roared, its body began to grow longer and thicker. The scales on its body became brighter and more crystal clear. A claw extended from the 9 dragons' bloodline's abdomen. The 5th claw. 5 claws, a true dragon. After a while, a 1,000-meter-long true dragon with 5 claws under its abdomen appeared above Lu Ming's head. There was a golden chakra on the true dragon's body, shining with dazzling light. The 9 dragons' bloodline had finally advanced to the divine bloodline and transformed into a true dragon's body. Back! The 9 dragons' bloodline roared, its aura soaring to the sky. At this moment, in the depths of the 9 dragon city, where the 3 dragon veins converged, there was a palace floating in the air. It seemed to be in the depths of the void. It could be seen, but could not be approached. In the deepest part of the palace, there was a figure sitting cross-legged in the void. This was a middle-aged man around 50 years old. He wore a black battle robe and was tall and sturdy. His eyes were closed as he sat there quietly. However, from his body, there seemed to be a boundless majesty. It was as if this person was a peerless overlord, a peerless emperor who could dominate the universe and control countless lives. Suddenly, he opened his eyes. At this moment, the entire world lit up. The surrounding space was instantly annihilated as if it could not withstand the immense pressure and turned into a pitch-black chaotic space. The Nine Dragons bloodline has finally appeared? It seems to have evolved to the divine bloodline. Jiu Yang, you've really put in a lot of effort to use a sealing technique to isolate the aura of the Nine Dragons blood essence. Unfortunately, you've underestimated your master. Master's methods are not something you can pry into. Even if there's a seal, I have my own detection technique. The Nine Dragons blood essence seems to be in Nine Dragons City. There's a treasure blocking it. The middle-aged man muttered to himself. After a while, he frowned slightly. Chapter 8:14. Jiu Yang, you must have found a young genius to be your successor, right? Do you want to take revenge on me? Hee, how naive. Since you are in Nine Dragon City, I will find you. Let's leave this matter to the ancient families. The middle-aged man whispered. Then, his lips moved and he seemed to have said something. Soon, 6 middle-aged men walked in. Each and every one of these 6 middle-aged men possessed imposing auras. From a single glance, one could tell that they were people of high status and possessed the aura of an overlord. However, the 6 middle-aged men were extremely respectful before the black-clothed man. Greetings, Your Majesty. The 6 middle-aged men bowed and greeted him. Obviously, the middle-aged man in black was the ruler of Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, one of the overlords of Eastern Wilderness, Martial Emperor De. The 6 middle-aged men who came later were the family heads of the 6 ancient families. May I know why Your Majesty has summoned the 6 of us? The family head of the Dongfang family bowed and asked. During this period of time, pay close attention to the geniuses in Nine Dragon City, especially those who have awakened the true dragon bloodline. If there are any, bring them here. Martial Emperor De instructed. Yes. The 6 family heads bowed and accepted the order. Go. After Martial Emperor De instructed, he closed his eyes again. The patriarchs of the 6 ancient families bowed and left. Roar. The Nine Dragon bloodline roared and its aura was shocking. Whoosh. Lu Ming turned into a ray of light and entered the Nine Dragon bloodline, merging with it. At this moment, Lu Ming seemed to have turned into a true dragon and had the power to destroy the world. After a while, the Nine Dragon bloodline shrank and turned into Lu Ming's appearance. I wonder if the Nine Dragon bloodline has any other functions after becoming a divine bloodline? The devouring power should be stronger, right? I should find a chance to try it. Lu Ming thought excitedly as he sensed it carefully. All of a sudden, he felt a strange power in the Nine Dragons bloodline at his spine. This power was extremely terrifying and Lu Ming seemed to be able to draw out this power at any time. What kind of power is this? I should go out and try it. Lu Ming left the Supreme Divine Palace and appeared on a mountain peak thousands of miles away. With a thought, Lu Ming drew out the power of the Nine Dragons bloodline. This power was similar to True Origin, but it was completely different. Lu Ming felt that the essence of this power was thousands of miles stronger than True Essence. Roar. As soon as this energy was drawn out, it emitted an astonishing dragon roar. Then, this energy fused into Lu Ming's body. At this moment, Lu Ming's muscles swelled up and scales appeared on his skin. Dragon scales, these were dragon scales. At this moment, Lu Ming felt as if his entire body was filled with boundless power. Boom! Lu Ming punched out. Everywhere his fist passed, the air turned into liquid and then evaporated. Space was like paper, folding in front of his fist. A terrifying fist energy exploded out. Boom! Boom! Wherever the fist energy passed, 7 huge mountains were pierced by the fist energy and exploded. Many demonic beasts roared crazily and were sent flying far away. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. The power of this punch was terrifying. This was just a casual punch from Lu Ming. What kind of power is this? It's too strong. Lu Ming was shocked and excited at the same time. Dragon power, the power of a true dragon. Kid, this is the power of a true dragon. Dandan shouted on Lin Fan's shoulder. Dragon power? Lu Ming was puzzled. Dragon power is a power that only a true dragon can control. It's extremely powerful and is many times stronger than true origin. Kid, you can control dragon power? Dandan exclaimed. I can't control it. It's just a force born from the bloodline. Lu Ming arrived. While speaking, Lu Ming felt that the dragon power in his body was slowly weakening. Soon, the dragon power seemed to be exhausted. The dragon scales on Lu Ming's skin also disappeared. Why is it gone? Lu Ming was shocked. It couldn't be that it was exhausted just like that, right? Brat, don't worry. Once it's used up, it will recover. Even if it's just one strand, you've already made a fortune. The power of the dragon force is not something that Jin Yuan can compare to. You've seen the power just now. Dandan said. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Could this be the benefit of the 9 dragons' bloodline being promoted to God realm? A dragon power was condensed in the bloodline. After Lu Ming unleashed it, his battle strength would increase greatly. This could be Lu Ming's trump card. I remember now. Kid, the bloodline you awakened, it can't be the 9 dragons' bloodline, right? Dandan suddenly shouted, staring at Lu Ming. Yes, what's wrong? Lu Ming said. It's really the 9 dragons' bloodline. How did you awaken it? Using the 9 dragons' blood essence? Dandan asked again. Didn't you already know this? Lu Ming was speechless. Dandan was by his side every day. Dandan already knew his secret. I just thought it was familiar before. Now, I finally remember. 9 dragons, so it's that kid 9 dragons. It seems that it has died in battle. Dandan suddenly sighed. That kid 9 dragons? Lu Ming was a little speechless. However, he was used to Dandan's bragging tone. He asked curiously, Dandan, do you know 9 dragons? Nonsense, of course I know them. I'm the leader of the top 10 beasts. 9 dragons is also one of the top 10 beasts. I was the one who guided him back then. His devouring talent could be maximized. Haven't you mastered it too? Dandan clasped his hands behind his back and spoke like an old man. 9 dragons is also one of the top 10 beasts? Then what are the top 10 beasts? Lu Ming was very curious. He had heard Dandan talk about the top 10 beasts every day. He had long wanted to know. Kid, the top 10 beasts are existences that surpass the divine beasts. Each of them is unique and powerful. With your current cultivation, it's useless to know. I'll tell you later. Dandan said proudly. Forget it, I'll find out myself in the future. Lu Ming said. Then, he returned to the cave and continued to cultivate. After the 9 dragons' bloodline was promoted to the divine rank, its devouring power had increased by dozens of times. The refining of blood essence was extremely fast. Under the Enlightenment Ancient Tree, Lu Ming's cultivation improved by leaps and bounds. Supreme 9 Yang was also under the Soul Consolidating Tree and did not wake up. Time flew by quickly. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, soon, Lu Ming came to the wild beasts forest. 5 months had passed. In these 5 months, Lu Ming had improved rapidly in all aspects. First, he lit 2 more path of inscription. Just a few days ago, Lu Ming had lit a total of 4 blue spirit lamps. As for the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps, Lu Ming had successfully cultivated to the 5th step and was moving towards the 6th step. Chapter 8:15. Other than the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps, Lu Ming also successfully integrated the concept of earth into the 3 ultimate skills of the dragon god, making it a demigod martial skill. Lu Ming cultivated it to the highest level. With this, Lu Ming undoubtedly had many more tricks up his sleeves. As for the concept of heaven and earth, his progress was also very fast. Wind, fire, and thunder, the 3 concepts of heaven and earth had all reached the greater success of level 2. Only the concept of earth was stuck at the peak of level 2 initial success for several months. The concept of earth was very difficult to cultivate, and there were many bottlenecks. If he wanted to improve it, it would be much slower than the 9 common concepts. Most importantly, Lu Ming had to multitask. If he only cultivated one concept of earth, his speed would definitely be much faster. As the concept increased, his cultivation would naturally increase quickly as well. Now, Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the peak of the 5th level of the spiritual sea realm. Compared to 5 months ago, it had increased by 3 levels. Their overall combat strength was much stronger than it was 5 months ago. Such a huge improvement was inseparable from the Enlightenment Ancient Tree. Of course, there was also the huge amount of resources left behind by Supreme 9 Suns. Lu Ming turned around and looked in the direction of Supreme 9 Suns. Supreme 9 Suns was still sitting cross-legged under the soul-consolidating tree. It had already been 5 months, and he had not moved at all. However, Supreme 9 Suns' remnant soul was much more condensed than 5 months ago, giving off a heavy feeling. The soul-consolidating fruits on the 2 soul-consolidating trees had long disappeared. Not only that, even the 2 soul-consolidating trees had completely withered, turning into dead branches. Lu Ming had a feeling that Supreme 9 Suns would wake up soon. Shwa. Lu Ming's figure moved, and he left the cave. It was time to collect the blood essence once every 7 days. Not long after, he saw a figure standing in the air, facing the wind. It was Wang Haoxian. Seeing Lu Ming come, Wang Haoxian waved his hand and threw 7 jade bottles to Lu Ming. After Lu Ming caught them, he threw the 7 empty jade bottles to Wang Haoxian. "What do you want so much blood essence for? Are you refining pills?" Wang Haoxian asked curiously. After 5 months, Wang Haoxian's state of mind had gradually calmed down. It seemed that she had gotten used to coming here every 7 days to hand over 7 sets of blood essence to meet Lu Ming. Over the past 5 months, Wang Haoxian had not asked Wang Haoxian's hands blood essence. "How about a battle with me?" Lu Ming's mouth suddenly spoke. After 5 months of tough cultivation, Lu Ming wanted to test the results of his cultivation. Wang Haoxian's hands. Wang Yi, heaven's god. Wang's fingers heavens. Hands, hand, eyes, hands. Wang Haoxian's eyes flashed. Eyes, I hand, mice hands, my there's hands, gods. Gods, mice. God. Lu Ming smiled faintly. "Fine. You asked for it." Wang Haoxian's eyes turned cold. Her body emitted blazing flames. She strode forward and threw a punch. The blazing fist radiance blasted toward Lu Ming. The infinite dragon spear appeared in Lu Ming's hand. He waved it casually and shattered the fist radiance. "No need to test me. Use your full strength." Lu Ming smiled faintly. Wang Haoxian furrowed her brows slightly. Her punch just now had 80% of her strength from 5 months ago. If it had been 5 months ago, Lu Ming would definitely have been sent flying. But now, Lu Ming had defeated her fist gleam effortlessly. It seemed that Lu Ming had made great progress in the past 5 months. Boom! The next moment, Wang Haoxian's aura burst out. Instantly, it reached the peak of the 5th layer of the spiritual sea realm. But it was not the limit. The early stage of the 6th layer of the spiritual sea realm, the middle stage of the 6th layer of the spiritual sea realm, it kept increasing until it reached the peak of the 6th layer of the spiritual sea realm. Obviously, Wang Haoxian's cultivation had also made great progress in the past few months. That was for sure. It was impossible that Lu Ming was the only one who was improving. Others were also improving all the time. Boom! Wang Haoxian stepped forward and threw a punch at Lu Ming. The power of this punch was even more terrifying. That's right. Lu Ming laughed. His aura burst out. His long spear was like a dragon. With a thrust, a 4-colored dragon flew out and pounced forward. With a boom, Wang Haoxian's fist radiance was shattered. Although the 4-colored dragon became smaller, it still pounced forward. How can he be so strong? Wang Haoxian's expression changed. She waved her fists again and 2 fist radiances were thrown out. 1 fist radiance and the 4-colored dragon were shattered at the same time, while the other one blasted toward Lu Ming. Whoosh! The spear radiance burst out. Lu Ming shattered Wang Haoxian's fist radiance with 1 spear and strode forward. The spear radiance was like a mountain, smashing toward Wang Haoxian. Wang Haoxian roared. Flames burned as she tried her best to fight with Lu Ming. But the more they fought, the more shocked Wang Haoxian was. She was actually suppressed by Lu Ming. Lu Ming's cultivation was at the peak of the 5th layer of the spiritual sea realm, 1 level lower than her, but he was still suppressing her. What was surprising was that Lu Ming did not seem to be using bloodline martial arts. That was even more surprising. In fact, this was normal. In the past 5 months, Lu Ming's 4 types of mentalities had all broken through and improved. Wang Haoxian's mentalities had reached the 2nd level of perfection 5 months ago. Although it had improved in the past month, it was still at the 2nd level of perfection. So, in terms of mentalities, Lu Ming's improvement was much greater than hers. That was why Lu Ming could surpass 1 level and easily suppress her. No, I can't be defeated by him. Wang Haoxian roared in her heart. Above her head, purple flames appeared. Her body melted into the purple flames. The purple flames twisted and turned into a purple fire bird, pouncing toward Lu Ming. Bloodline fusion. I've been waiting for this move. Lu Ming smiled. The infinite dragon spear disappeared, and a palm struck toward Wang Haoxian. Pang! As the palm struck, the space shook. The fire bird screamed and flew back, turning back into Wang Haoxian's figure. Her face was pale, and blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. Her eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Lu Ming did not even use bloodline fusion. He defeated her bloodline fusion with 1 move and beat her back to her original form. How could it be so terrifying? She felt that the power of Lu Ming's palm strike seemed to be able to suppress the heaven and earth, making her feel that she could not resist. What followed was depression and dejection. 5 months. It had only been 5 months. 5 months ago, Lu Ming was no match for her at all. She chased him all over the place and he was almost killed by her. 5 months later, even though her cultivation level had increased by 1 level, she was still easily defeated by Lu Ming in 1 move. It was hard for her to accept. Would she still have any hope of revenge against Lu Ming in the future? Her hope was getting slimmer and slimmer. Wang Haoxian felt a sense of helplessness. This feeling of helplessness only came when she faced those monsters at the top of the list of top 1,000 talents. Could it be that Lu Ming could compete with those perverts? The hell-suppressing heaven skill is equivalent to an upper demigod martial technique. It's really powerful. Chapter 8:16 In the past 5 months, Lu Ming had devoured more than 150 portions of blood essence from beasts above the 5th layer of the spiritual ocean realm. It was impossible for his bloodline to not improve. The suppressing prison monument bloodline and the 9 dragons bloodline both improved by 1 level. Both bloodlines reached the 2nd level of the divine rank. When the suppressing prison monument bloodline reached the 2nd level of the divine rank, the power of the suppressing prison celestial skill skyrocketed again, reaching the power of an upper-grade half-god martial technique. However, it should be equivalent to the 1st level of an upper-grade half-god martial technique. Even so, its power was several times stronger than the highest level of a low-grade half-god martial technique. An upper-grade half-god martial technique could only be mastered by spirit embryo realm experts. Only then could they unleash its full power. Its power was terrifyingly strong. When the 9 dragons bloodline reached the 2nd level of the divine rank, Lu Ming discovered that there was actually an additional dragon power. There were 2 dragon powers in the bloodline. This made Lu Ming look forward to the bloodline's upgrade even more. However, it was even more difficult to upgrade the bloodline at the divine rank. However, the 3rd bloodline had not awakened yet. It was as if it was still brewing and accumulating. This made Lu Ming feel rather helpless. He could only wait. Let's go. Follow me to hunt beasts. Lu Ming instructed Wang Haoxian. In the past 5 months, Lu Ming almost did not engage in any battles. He spent almost all of his time cultivating. Cultivating blindly was not enough. There had to be a great battle. Only by combining the 2 could it be the path of martial cultivation. Lu Ming planned to kill beasts in the Wild Beast Mountain Range while obtaining blood essence. When Supreme 9 Suns woke up, he would head to the Ocean Cloud sect. Back then, he had made an appointment with Xian Yanqing and Kong Jin to meet at the Ocean Cloud sect half a year later. Wang Haoxian bit her lips and followed behind Lu Ming. No one knew what she was thinking. Lu Ming was too lazy to care. He and Wang Haoxian went deep into the Wild Beast Mountain Range to search for high-level beasts. Lu Ming was too lazy to hunt beasts in the 5th and 6th layer of the spiritual ocean realm. Their blood essence was too weak for Lu Ming. He had to hunt beasts in the 7th layer of the spiritual ocean realm at least. Soon, the 2 were 100,000 miles deep. Roar! A giant black bear, 10 meters tall, with blood-red eyes, exuded a terrifying and powerful aura. This was a demonic beast at the peak of the 7th layer of the spiritual ocean tier, charging towards Lu Ming fearlessly. A spear light materialized in his hand. With a wave of his hand, the spear light pierced through the void and pierced through the head of the giant bear. Lu Ming could casually kill a normal peak of the 7th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. Devouring power erupted from his palm, devouring the blood essence of the giant bear and refining it. The refining power of the 9 dragons bloodline of the divine realm was incomparably terrifying. In just a few minutes, the giant bear's blood essence was completely refined. The 2 continued to go deeper, and before long, an 8th layer spiritual ocean tier beast appeared, but was still easily killed by Lu Ming. The 2 of them advanced, and in a day's time, there were as many as 10 beasts in the 7th layer of the spiritual ocean tier and above that died at Lu Ming's hands. Lu Ming used it to upgrade the prison suppressing steel's bloodline, but it was like throwing a stone into the ocean. It didn't cause any ripples. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, a rumbling sound came from ahead. Sword Chi soared into the sky, and there were roars of demonic beasts. Someone was fighting with demonic beasts. In the Wild Beast Mountain Range, there were often people who entered to hunt demonic beasts, obtain materials, and search for some spirit herbs. Lu Ming didn't mind, bypassing that place and continuing forward. Soon, they advanced another 10,000 miles. That seems to be a bloodstained flower. Suddenly, several spirit flowers appeared in front of them. The spirit flowers were dark red, emitting a rich medicinal fragrance. Bloodstain flower was a 6th-level high-grade spirit herb. Although Lu Ming didn't care much about it now, since he saw it, he naturally wouldn't miss it. Lu Ming was just about to walk over when a buzzing sound suddenly sounded in the sky. A group of dark red flying insects flew towards Lu Ming and the others. There were too many of these dark red flying insects, at least 10,000 of them. Bloodstain bugs equivalent to Peak King tier. Lu Ming's mind moved, recognizing these flying insects. Who? Lu Ming didn't make a move, but Wang Haoxian did. She waved her hand, and purple flames spread out, enveloping the sky. In the next moment, the 10,000 bloodstain bugs were burned to ashes. Lu Ming smiled and stepped forward. Suddenly, shwa! Shwa! The sound of air being torn apart rang out, and 7 or 8 figures flew over at extreme speed. Little guy, those bloodstain flowers are ours. An aged voice sounded, and 8 figures appeared, standing above Lu Ming and the others. A vast aura spread out. These 8 people were undoubtedly experts. 5 at the 7th layer of the spiritual ocean tier, and 3 at the 8th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. No wonder they dared to go hundreds of thousands of miles deep into the wild beast mountain range. Of the 8 people, there were white-haired old men and middle-aged men. Get lost. A cold voice came from Lu Ming's mouth. Little guy, what did you say? You're so young, and you don't know how to respect your elders? Looks like I'll have to teach you a lesson on behalf of your elders. A short and fat old man's face revealed anger, and he stared at Lu Ming with an unfriendly gaze. An enormous aura spread out, and the aura of the peak of the 7th layer of the spiritual ocean tier pressed down on Lu Ming. If you don't get lost, I'll kill him. Lu Ming didn't even look at the short and fat old man, and stepped toward the bloodstain flowers. These words were directed at Wang Haoxian. You're courting death. The short and fat old man shouted angrily, and a battle saber appeared in his hand. His figure flashed, and he slashed at Lu Ming. But in the next moment, a figure appeared in front of the old man, and a blazing aura spread out as a fist punched out. Pung! The short and fat old man was like a firework, instantly turning into flames and exploding, not even leaving behind ashes. Raging Flame Sky Burning Art, the Wang family's Raging Flame Sky Burning Art. So young, but so powerful. Could she be the Wang family's god-tier genius, Wang Haoxian? It should be her. The other 7 people cried out involuntarily. They came from a big force in Nine Dragon City, but that force was far inferior to the Wang family. Get lost, or die. Wang Haoxian shouted coldly. Deep fear flashed in the eyes of the 7 people. Although their cultivation was high, they still had deep respect for such a god-tier genius. The combat power of a god-tier genius was too strong, and it couldn't be measured by cultivation at all. But what shocked them the most was that Wang Haoxian seemed to be taking orders from that young man. Just now, that young man completely ordered Wang Haoxian in a commanding tone. Who was that young man? It was unbelievable that he could order a god-tier genius like Wang Haoxian. They looked at Lu Ming, and their eyes flashed with respect. That was a misunderstanding. Let's go, we'll go immediately. The other 7 people laughed and flew forward quickly, going deep into the wild beast forest. Lu Ming didn't bother to pay attention to them, and he casually picked the bloodstain flowers. Then, he continued to look for beasts to kill. In the blink of an eye, half a day passed. Roar! Roar! Suddenly, a few beasts' roars came from the front, shaking heaven and earth. Chapter 8:17. These were 2 elders. Their bodies were covered in blood, and their faces were filled with terror as they fled. Behind them, there were several huge beasts chasing after them. The aura of those beasts was extremely terrifying, and they were beasts at the 9th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. At this moment, the two old men also saw Lu Ming and Wang Haoxian. Their eyes lit up, and they rushed towards Lu Ming and Wang Haoxian, shouting, "Save us, save us!" Lu Ming frowned. These two old guys obviously wanted to draw trouble onto them. How could Lu Ming let them do as they wished? "Retreat!" Lu Ming said softly, and retreated with Wang Haoxian. "Save us!" The two old men chased after Lu Ming and Wang Haoxian, and the few powerful beasts behind continued to chase after the two old men. "You two, you can't leave us in the lurch!" The two old men shouted. "What did you take from those beasts? Otherwise, why would they chase after you so desperately?" Lu Ming snorted coldly. The two old men's faces changed, and one of them said, "We didn't take anything. We just went in deep and encountered these beasts chasing after us crazily. Our other companions were all killed by them, and only the two of us are left." The two old men spoke as they flew towards them. "Give me your storage rings, and I'll save you." Lu Ming sneered. These two old fellows must have taken something from those monstrous beasts. Otherwise, those monstrous beasts wouldn't be chasing them non-stop. You're robbing us," the two old men said. "If you don't give it to me, then scram. If you keep pestering me, I'll make a move," Lu Ming said. A cold look flashed in the two old men's eyes. Without saying a word, they kept pestering Lu Ming and Wang Haoxian, flying towards Lu Ming and Wang Haoxian. Since Lu Ming and Wang Haoxian didn't make a move, then they would drag them in. Roar! A huge black wolf roared furiously and charged over at the fastest speed. This giant wolf had battle prowess at the peak of the 9th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. With a swipe of its claw, it enveloped the old man, Lu Ming, and the others. The two old men screamed and ran for their lives. Boom! Wang Haoxian took a step forward and blasted out a blazing fist aura, which collided with the wolf claw. The giant wolf howled in anger. A large part of its paw was charred, but Wang Haoxian was also forced to retreat. The giant wolf's eyes were bloodshot. It howled crazily and pounced on the two old men without any regard for its life. "Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." At this time, Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. The infinite dragon spear appeared and swept out. The spear light expanded and formed a huge spear pillar that swept towards the two old men. "You can't." The two old men were shocked and used all their strength to block, but with their cultivation at the 8th layer of the spiritual ocean tier, how could they block Lu Ming's attack? They were struck by the spear ray until they spat out large mouthfuls of blood, and their bodies flew towards the giant wolf beast. Roar! The giant wolf demonic beast let out a long howl and swung out its claws. Under the despairing eyes of the two old men were torn apart. Then, the giant wolf beast opened its mouth and swallowed the storage rings of the two old men. It glanced at Lu Ming and the others and actually turned to leave. "Want to leave? Stay." How could Lu Ming let them leave? He strode forward and took several steps. Boom! Boom! 5 steps in a row, the power of the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps exploded. The giant wolf beast howled as its huge body was stomped down and crashed into the ground below, creating a crater that was a few thousand meters deep. Roar! At this time, the other two beasts also pounced. These two beasts were a giant tiger and a giant snake, both of which had battle prowess at the peak of the 9th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. With a shake of the long spear, 2 rays of spear light shot out and pierced 2 wounds on the bodies of the two beasts. Blood flowed out. Roar! The fresh blood made the two demonic beasts even crazier as they pounced on Lu Ming. As for the giant wolf, it also started to struggle. It stomped on the ground and the ground rumbled. Amid the flying gravel, the giant wolf dashed into the sky and charged towards Lu Ming. "You don't have to do anything, I'll do it." On the side, Wang Haoxian was about to make a move but was stopped by Lu Ming. There were a few opponents that Lu Ming could use to practice. The long spear shook and danced out. Spear light swept through the air and pierced towards the three beasts. The roars of the three demonic beasts were as loud as thunder, causing heaven and earth to tremble. Three types of attacks, flames, ice, and thunder, erupted from their bodies and charged toward Lu Ming. The giant tiger and the giant wolf had sharp claws like knives and the body of the giant snake was like a steel whip. They had a terrifying attacking power. If one was hit, one's body would be torn apart. Lu Ming used the three absolutes of the dragon god and occasionally used the 9 dragons heaven stomping steps to battle the three beasts at the peak of the 9th layer of the spiritual ocean tier and faintly had the upper hand. On the side, Wang Haoxian was extremely shocked. Lu Ming obviously hadn't burst out with his strongest battle prowess. He hadn't used any bloodline martial arts and hadn't fused with divine rank bloodline, yet he could suppress the three beasts at the peak of the 9th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. As for Lu Ming, he was only at the peak of the 5th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. If it were her, unless she fused with divine rank bloodline, she could only suppress one of the beasts. At most, she could fight the three beasts to a draw. Ga. Just as Wang Haoxian's thoughts were flying, a shocking scream sounded out in the sky. A ray of silver light flashed, and in the next moment, it appeared in front of Wang Haoxian like the most terrifying heavenly blade, slashing towards Wang Haoxian's head. Wang Haoxian's pupils contracted rapidly. Flame spread out from his body as he punched out, and a blazing fist ray shot out. Pang! The silver light and the fist ray collided. In an instant, the fist ray dissipated, and the silver light slashed out again. Wang Haoxian's figure retreated rapidly, and at the same time, he punched out twice in succession. The two fist rays were scattered again, but they were slightly blocked. Wang Haoxian had time to prepare. His divine rank bloodline emerged, and Wang Haoxian fused with his bloodline, turning into a purple fire bird, and pounced out. Pang! The purple fire bird and the silver light collided. In the boom, the purple fire bird flew back, and that silver light also stopped. It was a giant silver bird with a wingspan of 50 meters. Its entire body was silver, as if it was made of silver. Silver rock. Wang Haoxian's pupils contracted. The silver rock had the bloodline of the divine beast, the golden-winged rock, and was a descendant. It was extremely powerful, and ordinary beasts couldn't compare to it. Ordinary beasts were like ordinary human martial artists, and descendant beasts with divine beast bloodline were like human geniuses with powerful battle prowess, able to fight across levels. And the higher the concentration of divine beast bloodline, the stronger the talent, and the more powerful it was. This silver rock was also at the peak of the 9th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. Ga. The silver rock screeched, and pounced at Wang Haoxian again. Wang Haoxian had no choice but to flap his wings to face the enemy. But the silver rock's battle prowess was extremely powerful, much more powerful than the other three beasts combined. With only a few collisions, Wang Haoxian dispersed the flames and turned back into human form, spitting out blood. Shua! The silver rock turned into a silver lightning, and its wings were like heavenly blades, slashing at Wang Haoxian. Wang Haoxian's eyes were filled with despair. She couldn't dodge anymore. Pang! The next moment, a figure appeared in front of her, and with a palm strike, the silver rock was sent flying. Chapter 8:18. The one who appeared in front of Wang Haoxian was naturally Lu Ming. However, at this moment, Lu Ming's figure was taller and sturdier than usual. His skin was covered with dense scales, and his aura was extremely violent. Wang Haoxian looked in other directions and found that the three beasts had all been killed by Lu Ming. Ga. The silver rock shouted and pounced towards Lu Ming. Kill! Lu Ming stepped out and punched out, colliding with the silver rock's wing. Crack! The silver rock's huge body was sent flying, and it let out a mournful cry. One of its wings was deformed, and the bone had been broken by Lu Ming. The silver rock's blood-red eyes actually showed fear. It flapped its wings and turned around to leave. Still want to run? Lu Ming stepped out and caught up with the silver rock, and stepped out. This step contained a violent force, and it hit the silver rock's back. The silver rock let out a mournful cry, and it fell to the ground. A long spear appeared in Lu Ming's hand, and the long spear pierced the silver rock's heart, killing it. Wang Haoxian was shocked. This silver rock with the bloodline of the golden-winged rock was actually killed by Lu Ming with an unstoppable force. This silver rock had almost killed her just now. Lu Ming's combat strength was too terrifying. In this case, it would not be too difficult for Lu Ming to kill her now. Also, what kind of secret technique was that? It was so terrifying. His body was covered with scales like a beast, and his aura was violent and terrifying. Her heart was extremely complicated. In her eyes, Lu Ming was becoming more and more mysterious, more and more unfathomable. Lu Ming flew down and secretly devoured the silver rock's blood essence. A burst of dragon force is indeed powerful. Lu Ming thought in his heart. Just now, he had unleashed a surge of dragon force. Coupled with the hell-suppressing heaven skill, his power had reached a terrifying level. He had killed 3 demon beasts in one go, blocked the silver rock's attack towards Wang Haoxian, and crushed the silver rock to death. I wonder how powerful it would be if 2 streams of dragon force were to burst out at the same time. Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. When the 9 dragons' bloodline reached the 2nd level of the divine realm, there would be 2 dragon energies. Let's go. Let's get out of here. Lu Ming said. You don't want these corpses? Wang Haoxian asked. A total of 4 corpses of beasts in the 9th layer of the spiritual ocean tier, especially that silver rock. The materials on its body were extremely valuable. If you want it, take it. Lu Ming waved his hand. With the wealth left behind by Supreme 9 Sons, he didn't care about these demon beasts at all. The spirit stones exchanged for them wouldn't even be enough for him to swallow in a few mouthfuls. Finished speaking, Lu Ming stepped out. Wang Haoxian glanced at Lu Ming a few more times. After confirming that Lu Ming really didn't want it, she put away the 4 corpses. On a mountain peak tens of thousands of miles away, Lu Ming sat cross-legged, refining the blood essence. Wang Haoxian was at the side, guarding Lu Ming. The blood essence of the 4 beasts in the 9th layer of the spiritual ocean tier was extremely rich. However, with the refining power of the 9 dragons' bloodline, it didn't take much time to completely refine it. All the power of the blood essence poured into the hell-suppressing monument bloodline, but the hell-suppressing monument bloodline still didn't advance and was still at the 2nd level of the divine realm. What did those guys steal from those demon beasts? And those demon beasts were a little different from other demon beasts. Lu Ming muttered to himself. The demon beasts in the wild beast forest were affected by the baleful aura and killing intent here. They were all incomparably violent and didn't fear death. They had lost their intelligence and wouldn't show any signs of fear. However, after those demon beasts were injured by Lu Ming, they showed fear. And that silver rock's fear was even stronger. It even turned and ran, which was different from other demon beasts, making Lu Ming feel a little strange. Could it be because of its high level? Lu Ming shook his head and didn't care about it for now. He planned to see what the 2 old men took from the demon beasts that caused the demon beasts to chase after them. Lu Ming looked through the 2 storage rings. There were some spirit crystals, some origin stones, medicinal pills, and secret manuals. Lu Ming didn't care much about them. In the end, Lu Ming found a metal box. This metal box wasn't big, but it was placed in a very important position. Lu Ming took it out and opened it. He found a red stone inside. The stone was the size of a fist. When the metal box was opened, the stone emitted a strange aura. Lu Ming immediately felt refreshed. Could this be a soul-gathering stone? Lu Ming's eyes suddenly shone brightly. The soul-gathering stone was a rare treasure of heaven and earth. It had magical effects on the soul. Legend had it that when a person had just died and his soul had yet to disperse, if the soul-gathering stone was used to gather it, it could bring the person back to life. Of course, the legend was exaggerated, but it was very useful to the soul. Those guys must have taken the soul-gathering stone from the demonic beasts. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Those demon beasts must have regained some of their intelligence because of the soul-gathering stone. That was why they were chasing after the two old men to take back the soul-gathering stone. This soul-gathering stone must be very useful to Senior Nine Sons. At this thought, Lu Ming was overjoyed. If Supreme Nine Sons' soul was strong enough, he might be able to revive in the future. Let's go back to the cave abode. Lu Ming got up and flew back to the cave abode with Wang Haoxian. A few thousand miles away from the cave abode. I will leave the wild beast forest in a month at most. During this time, you don't have to hunt demon beasts. Cultivate by yourself. When I leave, I will send you a message. Lu Ming instructed Wang Haoxian and flew back to the cave abode alone. Soon, he returned. Supreme Nine Sons was still sitting there cross-legged. However, the soul-gathering tree was completely dried up and had no energy left. Lu Ming guessed that Supreme Nine Sons would wake up soon. As expected, Supreme Nine Sons woke up 3 days later. Senior Nine Sons, how is your recovery? Supreme Nine Sons bowed and asked. My soul power has increased a lot. I won't fall into a deep sleep so easily. Supreme Nine Sons smiled. That's good. Senior Nine Sons, I have a soul-gathering stone here. It might be useful to you. Lu Ming took out the soul-gathering stone and held it in his palm. Supreme Nine Sons' eyes lit up like two small suns. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the soul-gathering stone. After examining it for a while, he laughed out loud. It really is a soul-gathering stone. Huh, good. With this soul-gathering stone, my soul power will definitely recover by a large amount. At that time, I will be able to help you. It's good that it will be useful to you. Lu Ming was also very happy. Lu Ming, thank you. I will go back to the Temple of Paragon to refine it. Supreme Nine Sons wrapped the soul-gathering stone and turned into a ray of light. He rushed into Lu Ming's glabella and disappeared. I will cultivate for a while more and then go to the Sea Cloud sect to meet up with Xiaoqing and the others. Chapter 8:19. Next, Lu Ming continued his seclusion. In the blink of an eye, more than 20 days had passed. During this time, Lu Ming continued to use origin stones to break through, raising his cultivation to the peak of the 6th layer of the spiritual sea realm. However, his earth concept was still stuck at the peak of the 2nd level, unable to break through to the 2nd level. At this time, there were less than 10 days left until the half-year agreement. Xiaoqing, Fatty and the others have already come out of the Sky Vault Legacy grounds. I should also leave. Lu Ming thought. During this time, he and Xian Yanqing had naturally communicated with each other. Otherwise, Xian Yanqing would definitely be worried about Lu Ming's safety and would not be able to cultivate in peace. Knowing that each other was safe, Xian Yanqing and Kong Jin could cultivate in peace in the Sky Vault Legacy grounds. And Lu Ming could also cultivate in peace and wait for Supreme Nine Sons. Lu Ming packed up and left the cave abode. He flew out of the wild beast forest at high speed. Thousands of miles away, on a mountain peak, Wang Haoxian stood against the wind. After seeing Lu Ming, she obediently followed behind Lu Ming and flew out together. Soon, they were out of the wild beast forest. Their bodies suddenly became lighter, and their speed soared. They turned into two streaks of light and flew towards the east. Half a day later, they were close to the dragon vein in the east. Lu Ming took Wang Haoxian and flew directly towards the Sea Cloud sect. Lu Ming, how have you been? When Lu Ming arrived at the Sea Cloud sect, Xiao Xian stepped out and said with a smile. Xiao Xian, congratulations on breaking through to the spiritual sea realm and becoming a spiritual sea realm almighty. Lu Ming glanced at Xiao Xian and saw that she had broken through to the spiritual sea realm. She was now at the peak of the first layer of the spiritual sea realm. I have broken through, but you should be even more unfathomable. Xiao Xian smiled. Then she looked at Wang Haoxian behind Lu Ming and said, Lu Ming, you have a great beauty by your side. Be careful that Miss Shernyanqing doesn't get jealous when she sees you. Don't worry, she's just my maid. Why would Shaoqing be jealous? Lu Ming smiled. These words caused Wang Haoxian, who was standing behind Lu Ming, to grit her teeth and feel hatred in her heart. Servant girl? Xiao Xian was stunned, and then she looked at Wang Haoxian and said, May I know your name? Wang Haoxian glanced at Xiao Xian, snorted coldly, and did not answer. How could someone like Xiao Xian enter Wang Haoxian's eyes? She is Wang Haoxian. Lu Ming answered for her. So it's Miss Wang. What? Wang Haoxian? Which Wang Haoxian? Xiao Xian began to nod, but immediately reacted. Her pupils contracted as she looked at Lu Ming in shock and asked several questions. It's none other than Wang Haoxian from the ancient Wang family. Lu Ming said casually. What? She is the god-level genius, Wang Haoxian? She is now your maid? Xiao Xian's voice was trembling, and her eyes were full of shock. Who would believe that the god-level genius, Wang Haoxian, would become Lu Ming's maid? Xiao Xian thought that she was dreaming. Wang Haoxian gritted her teeth unhappily. She knew that if this matter were to spread, her reputation would be ruined, but what could she do? She was also helpless. Well, let's not talk about this first. Shaoqing and Fatty should be here soon. Lu Ming said casually, looking into the distance. Xiao Xian kept taking deep breaths to calm herself down. This matter was simply too shocking. Soon, two rainbow lights appeared from the horizon and arrived in front of the Haiyun sect in a few breaths. As the rainbow light dissipated, Xian Yanqing and Kong Jin's figures appeared. Ha, Lu Ming, we meet again. I missed you so much. As soon as Kong Jin appeared, he laughed loudly and was about to pounce on Lu Ming. But the next moment, he looked around and saw Wang Haoxian standing behind Lu Ming. His butt seemed to be pricked by a needle, and his body jumped up like a round ball. Wang Haoxian, it's you? Why are you here? Fatty cried out in disbelief, and the aura on his body burst out. Peak of the 5th level of the spiritual sea realm. After half a year, Fatty's cultivation reached the peak of the 5th level of the spiritual sea realm, only one step away from the 6th level. On the other side, Xian Yanqing also burst out the cultivation of the peak of the 5th level of the spiritual sea realm, and his eyes revealed killing intent as he stared at Wang Haoxian. What? Want to fight? You think you are my match? Wang Haoxian sneered, and a powerful aura burst out, pressing toward Fatty and Xian Yanqing. What are you doing? Retract your aura. Lu Ming glanced at Wang Haoxian, and snorted coldly. Wang Haoxian snorted, retracted her aura, and stood behind Lu Ming obediently. Seeing this scene, Fatty and Xian Yinqing were dumbfounded. "Don't be nervous. She is now my maid," Lu Ming said with a smile. "Yeah, maid?" Fatty's mouth opened wider than a lamb leg, and Xian Yinqing's eyes widened. Previously, Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing didn't mention that Wang Haoxian had become his maid. The message transmission Jade Talisman couldn't explain clearly, and only said that he was fine, and they didn't need to worry. So now, Xian Yinqing and the others were naturally surprised. "Lu Ming, what's going on?" Xian Yinqing stared and said. "It's like this," Lu Ming explained how he had subdued Wang Haoxian, but skipped the matter of Supreme Nine Sons. He only said that he had found the netherine grass by accident, and refined it into netherine powder to control Wang Haoxian. "Is that so? Lu Ming, I admire you so much. You have such a beauty to serve you every day. That's so cool." "Ah. No, I also want to learn the art of inscription. I want to learn it too." Fatty was the first to shout, and his two small eyes were sparkling. It was as if he could already see countless women surrounding him and serving him as his servants. "Fatty, don't talk nonsense. I have been cultivating alone during this period." Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly explained. "Lu Ming, you too have been in the wild beast forest during this period." A cold voice sounded. Xian Yinqing glanced at Lu Ming and Wang Haoxian unkindly. "Little Qing, although we have been in the wild beast forest, we have been cultivating separately," Lu Ming quickly explained. "Young Master Lu Ming, the bed is ready. Do you need me to warm it for you?" At this moment, Wang Haoxian spoke, which made Lu Ming's eyelids twitch. He turned around and stared at Wang Haoxian fiercely. However, he saw Wang Haoxian's mouth curl up slightly, revealing a trace of complacency. "Nest, this is revenge, a blatant revenge," Lu Ming shouted in his heart. As expected, Xian Yinqing's silver teeth were tightly clenched together, and her eyes widened. She revealed a cold expression and squeezed out a sentence from her mouth. "Pervert, Lu Ming, you really haven't changed." I am innocent." Lu Ming was speechless. What did she mean by haven't changed? When did he become perverted? "Wang Haoxian, don't talk nonsense," Lu Ming scolded. Chapter 820. Nest, Lu Ming, you're too powerful. Wang Haoxian, that violent woman, was actually tamed by you. I admire you. Fatty touched the pot that didn't boil. Lu Ming. Xian Yinqing screamed, and a powerful aura burst out from his body. The sky demon force field enveloped Lu Ming. Lu Ming was shocked. He moved, penetrated the force field, and appeared beside Xian Yinqing. He grabbed Xian Yinqing by the waist. Xian Yinqing's body trembled, and the force field disappeared. "Fool, can't you see that she did it on purpose? I only have you in my heart. How can Wang Haoxian move my heart?" Lu Ming whispered in Xian Yinqing's ear. This action was really intimate. Xian Yinqing looked around and found that the fatty, Xiao Xian, and Wang Haoxian were staring at them with wide eyes. He immediately blushed and struggled. "Lu Ming, you let go of me. If you don't believe me, I won't let go," Lu Ming said with a grin. "I believe you." Xian Yinqing admitted defeat. Lu Ming's arm loosened, and Xian Yinqing flew out, his face red. "Huh, the weather is really good today. Sister Xiao Xian, don't you think so?" Fatty chuckled and turned his head to look elsewhere. Yes. Xiao Xian also turned to look elsewhere. This made Xian Yinqing's face redder, and he glared at Lu Ming. Lu Ming looked at Xian Yinqing with a grin. After fooling around, they started to chat. Xian Yinqing and Kong Jin also had some fortuitous encounters in the Sky Dome relic. Their cultivation had reached the peak of the 5th level of the spiritual sea realm, and their comprehension of concepts was far beyond Lu Ming. However, like Lu Ming, they hadn't awakened their 3rd bloodline yet, as if they were still accumulating power. But now, you're no match for me, Lu Ming said with a smile. Humph, don't be so smug. When I awaken my 3rd bloodline, I'll definitely defeat you. Xian Yanqing snorted and pouted. Especially when he looked at Wang Haoxian, his eyes were extremely unfriendly, as if he was still holding a grudge in his heart. Someone's coming. Lu Ming suddenly looked into the distance. A ray of sword light streaked across the sky at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, it was right in front of him. When the sword light dissipated, a slender and beautiful woman appeared. Ting Ting. Seeing this woman, the fatty was overjoyed and hurriedly went to greet her. This young woman was actually Ruan Tingting. Fatty, Lu Ming, Miss Nianqing, I didn't expect you to be here too. Ruan Tingting was overjoyed to see Lu Ming and the others. Tingting, long time no see. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing also greeted Ruan Tingting. They hadn't seen each other for half a year, and Ruan Tingting had already gotten over that period of sadness. There was a heroic spirit about her, making her look heroic and cool. Tingting, aren't you cultivating in the Imperial Heavenly Guard? Why are you here? The fatty asked. I came with Brother Long Qianli. Recently, the Heavenly Corpse sect and Sky Demon Valley sent out geniuses to challenge the geniuses of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace. On the Dragon Vein in the east, there were geniuses from the Heavenly Corpse sect blocking the entrance of a sacred ground. They were very arrogant. Brother Long Qianli wanted to come and meet them, so I followed him and headed to the Wind Sword sect to avenge my parents. Ruan Tingting explained. The geniuses from the Heavenly Corpse sect and Sky Demon Valley are all here? Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and the others were stunned. Yes, I heard that the strongest batch of geniuses will come. For example, the geniuses from the Heavenly Corpse sect who are ranked below 100 on the list of top 1000 talents are here. Ruan Tingting said. This is normal. Every time before the Battle of Providence, the Overlord forces will send their geniuses to the other party's territory. Their purpose is to test the strength of the other party's geniuses. In the past, the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace also sent their geniuses to the Heavenly Corpse sect. This time, the Heavenly Corpse sect and Sky Demon Valley are here together, Wang Haoxian said. She was a genius from the Wang clan and knew more about this. Lu Ming nodded. This was understandable. Although the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace and the Heavenly Corpse sect were archenemies, they didn't kill their envoys. When the other party's geniuses came, the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace could only send their geniuses to meet the enemy. Tingting, let's go to the Wind Sword sect first. After we deal with the Wind Sword sect, let's go and take a look. Lu Ming said. He also wanted to see how strong the geniuses from the Heavenly Corpse sect were. All right. Ruan Tingting nodded. Then, the group headed to the Wind Sword sect. Lu Ming could tell that Ruan Tingting's cultivation had already reached the 3rd level of the spiritual sea realm. It was obvious that Ruan Tingting had been heavily groomed by the Emperor Heavenly Forbidden Guards in the past half a year. Together with the inheritance from the Blue Gold Supremacy, her cultivation had improved so quickly. Lu Ming and the others naturally weren't going to help Ruan Tingting take revenge. Back then, Lu Ming said that he would let Ruan Tingting take revenge herself. They were heading there together in case of any accidents. Soon, the mountain gate of the Wind Sword sect was in sight. Who's there? This is the Wind Sword sect. Stop right there. At the mountain gate of the Wind Sword sect, a disciple guarding the mountain shouted. Don't you recognize me? Ruan Tingting strode forward with a gloomy face. Ruan Tingting, you're Ruan Tingting. The disciple's face changed drastically. I won't kill you. Go and get old man Yi Fa to come out and die. Ruan Tingting said. Just you wait. The disciple turned around and ran away. Clang! 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 After a while, a hurried bell sounded from the Wind Sword sect. Subsequently, a large number of figures appeared in the depths of the Wind Sword sect. Yi Fa, Yi Qing, and some elders of the Wind Sword sect. However, they stopped in the depths of the Wind Sword sect and didn't walk out. Yi Fa glanced at them solemnly and said, Tingting, what happened back then was our fault. However, because of this, the patriarch of the Wind Sword sect died in battle. Apart from that, a few experts also died. Qing Er's cultivation was also crippled. Can this matter end here? Shut up. Don't call my name. End? Sure. Wait until I chop off your head, then it will naturally end. Ruan Tingting said coldly with an extremely dense killing intent. During this period of time, she cultivated with all her might in hopes that she could kill her way into the Wind Sword sect one day and take revenge for her parents. How could this matter end so easily? Yi Fa's eyes were cold and didn't say anything. Since you guys aren't coming out, then I'll kill my way in. After Ruan Tingting said that, a sword chime sounded. A blue sword chi soared into the sky. As the sword chi crisscrossed, Ruan Tingting strode forward. Third level of the spiritual sea realm. The faces of Yi Fa and the rest changed drastically in disbelief. Lu Ming looked around and revealed a cold smile. Let's go in and take a look too. Then, they followed closely behind Ruan Tingting and stepped out. Seeing that Lu Ming and the rest had stepped into the territory of the Wind Sword sect, Yi Fa's eyes were cold. Killing intent flashed as he shouted, Formation, rise. Immediately after, densely packed inscriptions appeared all around the Wind Sword sect. Streaks of sword chi condensed in the air, and a powerful pressure spread out. This was a killing formation. A level 6 killing formation that was extremely powerful. Chapter 821. Although they didn't know the exact process of that incident, they heard that Ruan Tingting obtained a great opportunity. During this period of time, Yi Fa was deeply worried and hoping that Ruan Tingting would be killed in the cruel competition. At the same time, he was also making preparations. He paid a huge price to hire a level 6 true inscription master to inscribe a powerful killing array in the Wind Sword sect. As long as Ruan Tingting and Lu Ming stepped into the Wind Sword sect, he would activate the killing array and kill Lu Ming and the rest. Little bitch, I already gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. Even a martial artist at the 6th level of the spiritual ocean realm would die if they stepped into this array. Now, let's see how you're going to kill me. Yi Fa's expression was extremely gloomy as he spoke coldly. Ruan Tingting raised her brows and cursed in her heart. She was too careless. Hee, sect leader Yi, you think you can kill us with this array? Aren't you too naive? At this moment, Lu Ming chuckled. Humph, it's more than enough to kill you all. Yi Fa said coldly, but a trace of seriousness flashed in his eyes. In fact, the one he was most wary of wasn't Ruan Tingting, but Lu Ming and the rest. In his eyes, Lu Ming and the rest were unfathomable. Half a year ago, in that competition, their Wind Sword sect was completely defeated by Lu Ming and the rest. He built this array mostly to deal with Lu Ming and the rest. You think too highly of your formation. To be honest, I don't know what kind of inscription master you've hired. He's a complete piece of trash. You want to trap us with a trash formation? You're too naive. Lu Ming smiled. With that, he stepped out. With every step Lu Ming took, circles of dense inscriptions would appear on the ground. These inscriptions seemed to be alive and were actually swimming on the ground. Yi Fa's expression changed drastically as he cried out, "You're also an inscription master? Do it, control the array and kill them. In the surroundings, the grand formation shook. In the sky, endless sword chi converged, emitting a terrifying might as it pierced towards Lu Ming's group. Xie Nianqing, Fatty, Ruan Tingting, and even Wang Haoxian remained motionless, as if they did not see the sword chi. They had all witnessed how powerful Lu Ming's Tao of inscription was. However, Lu Ming still had a smile on his face. He stepped forward and whispered, "Break." As his voice fell, the sword chi that was piercing towards them from all directions collapsed just like that. Puchi. The inscriptions around the wind sword sect were like fire falling into ice. They sizzled and disappeared without a trace. As Lu Ming's voice fell, the great array was broken. Yi Fa, Yi Qing, and some of the elders of the wind sword sect had a terrible change in expression. They turned pale and bloodless. Yi Fa paid a huge price to invite a 6th-level true inscription master and spent half a month to perfect the Great Array. The Great Array that could kill an expert at the 6th level of the Spirit Sea Realm was actually broken by Lu Ming while he was talking and laughing. This was too shocking. Could it be that not only was Lu Ming's martial cultivation so powerful, but even his Tao of inscription was so terrifying? All his plans were useless in an instant. Their hearts turned cold and they felt despair. Ruan Tingting, don't you want revenge? If you want revenge, then do it yourself. Why did you call for help? Since it's like this, I admit defeat today. If you want to kill me, then kill me. Yi Fa called out to Ruan Tingting. Yi Fa, you don't have to use such a low-level method to provoke me. If it was a head-on battle, I wouldn't have interfered. Of course, I would have to interfere with things like arrays. Lu Ming smiled. You wouldn't interfere? You said it, don't go back on your words. Yi Fa called out. Of course I won't. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Ruan Tingting, what about you? Yi Fa was still worried and looked at Ruan Tingting. I'll kill you with my own hands. Ruan Tingting's answer was very obvious. Alright, since it's like this, attack and kill this little bitch. Yi Fa clenched his teeth and said gloomily. Instantly, 2 old men charged out from behind Yi Fa, and a powerful aura spread out. 5th level of the Spirit Sea Realm. Xiaofan exclaimed. These 2 old men actually had the cultivation of the 5th level of the Spirit Sea Realm. The Wind Sword sect definitely didn't have such experts, and Yi Fa must have paid a huge price to invite them. What Yi Fa said just now was to make Lu Ming and the others not attack, and then let the 2 5th-level Spirit Sea Realm experts kill Ruan Tingting. His intentions were vicious. Lu Ming, Tingting, Xiaofan looked worriedly at Lu Ming. No worries, Tingting should be able to handle it. Lu Ming said. He had long seen that there were 2 5th-level Spirit Sea Realm experts behind Yi Fa, but he believed in Ruan Tingting. Ruan Tingting received Venerable Lan Jin's inheritance, which was a god-tier cultivation technique. In addition, Ruan Tingting's talent was top-notch. Previously, she was just buried in the Wind Sword sect. Otherwise, she wouldn't have received Venerable Lan Jin's inheritance. With a god-tier cultivation technique as a foundation and having cultivated in the Imperial Sky Guard for so long, it wasn't a big problem for her to cross 2 levels to deal with 2 normal 5th-level Spirit Sea Realm experts. Clang! The sword ray whistled, and the blue sword chi soared into the sky as if it could tear everything apart. Sword concept. Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. Ruan Tingting evolved the sword concept on the foundation of the gold concept. Kill! Ruan Tingting yelled and stepped forward. The sword chi whistled and charged towards the 2 old men. The 2 old men unleashed their full strength, but after a few moves, they started to fall into a disadvantage. Ruan Tingting's blue sword ray was condensed from a god-tier cultivation technique, and in addition to the sword concept, it was simply indestructible. Xiao! Xiao. The sword chi rampaged and tore apart the two old men's attack and defense. Spare us. The two old men wanted to beg for mercy, but the sword chi pierced through the void and pierced through their throats. The two old men were dead. How could this be? Yi Fa, Yi Qing, and the others' faces were pale and filled with despair. Ruan Tingting's eyes flashed with killing intent as she stepped forward. The sword chi soared into the sky as she walked towards Yi Fa. Tingting, Tingting, spare us. Back then, I treated you well. Yi Fa shouted and started to beg for mercy. Treated me well? Marrying me to the Qing River's two freaks in exchange for a fortuitous encounter for your children. That's treating me well? Using my parents to force me and causing them to pass away in the end. That's treating me well? Ruan Tingting sneered. That was just a moment of folly on my part. Tingting, if you kill me, the Wind Sword sect will no longer exist. It will fall apart and be erased from the world. Yi Fa didn't give up and continued to shout. What does the Wind Sword sect no longer exist have to do with me? Ruan Tingting was unmoved as she strode forward. The sword chi whizzed out and pierced forward. A few elders of the Wind Sword sect roared and unleashed their full strength, wanting to block it, but it was all in vain. The sword chi pierced through their foreheads. Run! Run! The other upper echelons of the Sword Division sect ran for their lives. However, the sword chi pierced through the air and killed them one by one. In the end, only Yi Fa and Yi Qing were left. The two of them trembled and their faces were pale. They were in despair. Back then, they had forced Ruan Tingting so much and they definitely didn't expect this to happen. Clang! The sword chi flashed and Yi Fa and Yi Qing couldn't block it at all. The two figures fell down. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.